James O'Keefe has dropped his expose, and it shows an advisor to the British royal family stating stating overtly and rather confidently that Prince Andrew was in fact abusing minors. I'm using a little bit of innuendo here because try to keep it family friendly, but if you know what I mean, that he was meeting with Epstein and these things were happening, and this guy's drunkenly just saying like, yup, all of that stuff happened. This is a massive story, but I will say one thing. What signals to me that we are winning is that currently James O'Keefe is alive. And I know it might sound crude or crass, and I am half joking, maybe less than that. But I firmly believe that if this was 10 years ago and James O'Keefe got his hands on a statement from a British royal family advisor stating that a prince was doing these things to underage girls, they would not have let James O'Keefe successfully publish this information. And he has. The story is taking off. It's only been, I think, an hour or so, and it's already over 2 million views. And it's big. We're going to talk about that. Plus another story coming out as the Diddy trial has begun. It gets weirder. A man who shot up a Trump hotel in 2018 and claimed that he was a slave of Diddy. Well, apparently they've uncovered the NDA he had with Diddy, corroborating his claim that Diddy was keeping him as a slave of some sort. It's a weird news day. So yes, at the same time, Pam Bondi has come out, I believe this was today, saying tens of thousands of documents, there's videos related to the Epstein case that are currently being reviewed, and it's going to take some time. Many people are skeptical, but holy crap, all of this happening at the same time is a wild, wild thing. So we're going to talk about all that. Before we get started, my friends, we got a great sponsor. It is Fast Growing Trees, my friends. You got to go to fastgrowingtrees.com. Use code TIMCAST. Did you know that Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the U.S. with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers? They have all the plants your yard needs, like fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, and more. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to get the yard of your dreams. Order online and get your plants delivered directly to your door in just a few days without ever leaving home. Their Alive and Thrive guarantee ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy. You don't have to drive around the nurseries and big garden centers and choose plants from a limited assortment. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to order online, and your plants are delivered to your door in just a few days. The Resource Center has plenty of advice from their plant experts to help you learn more about your yard's needs. You'll know what plants and trees will thrive in your area. This spring, they get the best deals. Up to half off on selected plants and other deals. And listeners to this show, they're going to get 15% off their first purchase when using code TIMCAST at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code TIMCAST at checkout. Once again, fastgrowingtrees.com. The code is TIMCAST. Now's the time to plant. Get it, my friends. Shout out to Fast Growing Trees sponsoring the show. Also, go to castbrew.com, pick up some coffee. Have you guys restocked your delicious coffee yet? Well, Mother's Day is coming up, and we are going to have a default. That means every product is going to be, I think we're doing 20% off everything. So get it now. I'm not sure if that's active now or if it's going to be active in a couple of days, but go check it out. Here's what I recommend you do. If you've got a liberal aunt, uncle, or family member, you pick up a bag of Sleepy Joe decaf and just get it for them as a gift. And just say, what do you mean? It's just coffee. You know, Joe means coffee. Has nothing to do with Democrats or Joe Biden. You're paranoid.
That's right.
And don't forget to smash that like button, share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is the actual Justice Warrior.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Who are you? What do you do?
I'm Sean Fitzgerald. I run the Actual Justice Warrior YouTube channel, and I make videos about current events, mostly focused on crime. And apparently I give people pastries.
He brought cannolis for everyone today.
Here, these are actually for you. Apparently I have to re-gift them to you on air.
Re-gift them?
Yes. Well, I gifted them outside, but somebody told me I had to re-gift them on air.
Batter Up Bakery.
Yes, which is in Long Island, New York. I did pick them up this morning. It is the bakery that is the best one in Long Island. They did my wedding, and now I bring them to you.
Look at this. Look at those delicious cannolis. Those look amazing.
So good.
It just so happens that my wife's favorite dessert is cannoli.
And it just so happens I'm going to pretend like I knew that before I picked them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for the cannolis. Elad's hanging out.
Hey, everybody. What's going on? My name is Elad Eliyahu. I'm the White House correspondent here at Timcast. Sean, what's up? The cannolis were delicious. What part of Long Island were they from?
It says it on the box.
Levittown.
Levittown, great town. I think Bill O'Reilly actually was born and raised in Levittown. Classic. Thanks so much for bringing those. They were delicious. Happy to be here, and big fan of the channel, by the way.
Thank you.
What's going on, Phil?
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and counter-revolutionary. Let's get into it.
Here's a story, ladies and gentlemen, from O'Keefe Media Group, world exclusive. Quote, Prince Andrew was underage girls. Tape of royal family advisor exposes Prince Andrew's sexual relations with minors and deep ties to Jeffrey Epstein. And you know what's fascinating is because I'm watching this video from James, and I'm thinking to myself, how in the world is a British family, is the royal family's advisor outright admitting on camera Prince Andrew was doing these things? He's framed it as though he was the victim. He lied to me. I was so mad, I believed him. But he lied. And the reporter from O'Keefe Media Group says, lied about what? And he goes, that he was effing underage girls. So I think this guy knew the whole time. Of course. And I'll say this too. Didn't the royal family like excommunicate Prince Andrew over this?
He didn't do any. He was taken off of any kind of like official duties. I don't think they took his title away, but he was basically, they just shunned him, stuffed him in a closet, and you didn't see him except for at the. Like, no one had seen him in public doing anything official up until, like, for a long time, up until the Queen passed.
They put him in the back room where they put the developmentally disabled royals.
They knew what he was doing. So with this guy, this royal family advisor, okay, there's no way they were unaware of what he was doing with Epstein. They knew that he was flying around with Epstein. They knew that he was on the island. And when these accusations came out, they tried severing ties with them. So my question is, what was the rest of their involvement? Now, we do have the video. The first thing I want to mention is Project Veritas, right behind James O'Keefe. I didn't know that. You got O'Keefe Media Group, Project Veritas right there. I wonder if he's back with them. Was that a thing that happened I missed?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Anyway, let me just play the beginning. Listen to this.
Prince Andrew, he was in the Navy. He was 250 days at sea. Never thought of it. I was really pissed because he lied to me.
Lied about
Epstein. And then I did a big thing in the Daily Mail saying that I believed Andrew. And then I found out he was lying. I was so pissed. No, that he was underage girls. That's not cool.
John Bryan has been a close confidant to the British royal family for a long time. He worked for Queen Elizabeth II, was, quote, best friends with Princess Diana, and had a long-term intimate relationship with the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson. According to Bryan, he practically raised Sarah Ferguson's children, the princesses Beatrice and Eugene. And Bryan said that he maintained a friendship with Ferguson's husband, the Duke of York, Prince Andrew.
Tell me like your story.
So my story, you want to know my story?
What?
I don't. We learned enough. So this guy, deep ties to the British royal family. He says he learned this. Here's an honest question. Did he learn this in the loose, abstract sense of he read the news one day and assumed it was true? Or is he saying that the British royal family and everyone he knows, they gave him private information and were like, yes, this is true and correct?
I mean, I don't have any kind of.
I ain't giving him the benefit of the doubt.
I have no idea, honestly. Is this guy on the outs? Like, what? Like, is there
No, I don't think
possibly
He is now.
well, now he is. I was just saying, is there possibly an alternative motivation for this? Like, you know, maybe the royal family didn't do nothing wrong.
Perhaps, like this guy is angry at the royal family. I doubt it. He didn't know that it was being secretly recorded.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's an amazing thing that O'Keefe keeps getting away with these hidden camera investigations that he does. And it amazes me still how far so many people are willing to go and what they're willing to say to a young girl that they think they're going to get it on with. Because, I mean, that's what's going on all these O'Keefe setups. And it's kind of outrageous that he's willing to say this to try to attract a young woman, all things considered, because that's what's really going on here.
No, I think he has to say this. Like he mentioned, he said he did this interview in the Daily Mail where he said he believed Andrew. Nobody believes Andrew. So he's coming out saying, I was so pissed because he lied to me. I think this guy knew.
Yeah.
Come on. His degree of involvement with the royal family is too intense. I think the whole royal family knew that Andrew was going and banging underage girls.
Well, I imagine that not only did they know that they knew, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was not really a surprise, but the problem was that word got out, right? Like royal family, people in positions of high power, like there's debauchery that surrounds them consistently because they can get away with it. And I think that because he was not discreet enough, that was the actual problem.
I was going to say, do you think the British people are going to be angry that he was also hooking up with minors? Like, because they're very into the global warming thing. So like coal miners are persona non grata.
No, I think more so you've got a tendency towards the migrant groups that are coming to the UK that are intentionally targeting minors. There's a decent percent of the population of the UK that's probably going to be like, and?
Yeah.
Considering the gangs, the grooming gangs and all that stuff, that wasn't a joke. Like,
I mean, why doesn't he just say it's a cultural difference that the royals have from the regular British people, and everybody can move on?
They're going to be like, well, at least he wasn't racist,
He said, it would have been funny if he said, when you're royalty, you can do literally anything you want. So I'd like to see someone try to do something about it.
You raped underage girls, but at least he wasn't racist about it.
Now, Epstein has been accused of a couple things. One is he would invite people on his plane, and then, like, let's say Elad's, chilling at a party and he's drinking. This is before anyone knew who Epstein was. The accusation is that Epstein would be like, so what do you do? And he'd be like, oh, I'm a journalist. I do this. And he'd be like, oh, that's amazing. It's me. What do you got going on this weekend? He'd say, I'm going to fly back to New York. And he'd be like, hey, I got a jet. You want to fly my PJ? I'll fly back to New York. And someone like Elad goes, what? For real? That sounds amazing. What he would do is he'd bring people onto the plane, people with power, not like just some random reporter, but just as a hypothetical. While they're in the air, teenage girls walk out. And they're hanging out. And he's like, oh, these are so-and-so and so-and-so. They're hanging out with us. You want some champagne? Get the guy a little drunk, secret cameras rolling, and then the girls come in, do their deed with the guy, and then Epstein comes in, sits down, and goes, those girls were 15 years old, and I got you on camera. You'll do whatever I say from now on. That's one of the conspiracies. So I think that's probably a lot of what he did. Like, he would trick these guys. But I also think it's also true that a lot of these guys were like, don't know, don't care.
Yeah.
Or they knew, right? So I think Prince Andrew knew exactly what he's doing. Because you look at that photo of him with Virginia Giuffre, and he's like smiling and looking at the camera, and it's like, oh, he knows exactly what he's doing. Like that young girl right there, come on. I think she's 20.
I do feel like it's a really dumb move to allow yourself to be photographed with an underage girl like that. Especially when you're, if it's not in a public setting, if it's at someone's private home, like that's a dumb move.
Unless Epstein went to Andrew and said, you will take the photograph.
I mean, that could be, yeah.
Even more bad PR for the royal family at this point. Just seems like we're kicking a dead horse. It's a really sad state of affairs for the royal family. Who's the current, is it Prince or King Charles?
King Charles.
Who's in charge now. But seeing from like when he grew up, he's 80 or 90 some odd years. I'm no historian for the royal family. It's like a seriously sad state of affairs because over the course of his life, he saw the role of the monarchy just completely diminish, see their empire completely
part of it, though.
Flounder. And now the relatives of his family, what are they best known for in our generation? It's for taking part in these underage sex scandals. And it's a sad state of affairs for the face of the royal family because this used to be the most prestigious royal family, the crown, and was the most powerful country at the time with their British East India Company, and that wasn't too long ago. And to see the status of the royal family right now and the direction that the UK is going in, it's a very, very sad state of affairs.
If I had one wish, if a genie appeared before me, I'd say I'd like to briefly go back in time to 1780 to stand before King George III and show him what becomes of his empire and his family, but for a fleeting moment. Just like the war ends instantly, he gives up, the empire crumbles, the man falls into a deep depression. This is what your legacy will be. Congratulations.
Yeah. It's not just losing to the colonies. It's Meghan Markle's pasta on Netflix.
Well, it's like also what's become of the UK? What is London? What does London have to show for itself? It doesn't feel British over there, and I don't think the country will last in its native Western self for very much longer.
That is true about London. I visited it on my honeymoon, and it is probably the most Islamic place I've ever been in my... And I was just in a random
great falafel
spot. Yeah, true. But like it's completely different. But the thing is, that's the economic engine of the UK. I think if you take London away, a third of their GDP goes away, and they end up dropping like 30 slots in terms of the size of their economy. So like the UK is essentially a third world country with a super financial city attached to it on like one end. It is actually really sad what's happening in the UK, even separate from this guy. First of all, it's embarrassing that the prince can't even lie. Like that interview where he was denying it and he's sweating. It was like,
isn't England supposed to be a Christian nation, like founded in their document through the royal
Church of
family?
England.
the Church of England.
So, I mean, fundamentally, I think that's going to change as the population shifts in England, and it might be the first Islamic country in Europe. I don't know if that's true.
Can you imagine?
The royal family is the and there's countries that are more Islamic than the UK and Europe right now, but the royal family is the head of the Church of England. So they're like the Pope, where they're a king or queen on one end, but also the head of the church, and that's like completely fallen by the wayside. Like they have a state mandated religion, and they're more secular than the United States.
This is a half joke, but like, what do you think would have happened if Prince Andrew in the interview, when the lady said, "You're being accused of sleeping with underage girls," like, what if he just went, "I'm Muslim"? Like, she would have immediately shut up. And
What do you mean by underage?
No, like, so
Let's say something about the prophet. You know, if he was able to do it.
I'm Muslim. What are you insinuating?
Yeah.
It's like, you're Muslim? Yes, I converted. What are you insinuating? Are you insulting the prophet? She'd be like, no. I'm so sorry. I'll never ask you again. And they would have immediately dropped everything. And then in the United States, we'd still be going like, holy crap.
Exactly.
But not in the UK. I mean, that was just out. It's like, at that point, if you say anything, you go to prison.
Didn't they say he had some crazy sweating medical condition or
Yes.
something like that? And then people found all these other interviews where he was not sweating at all, like before and after, and it was supposed to be incurable, but they're like, oh no, it was not there then. Like,
So I want to jump to this story. This story is about a week old, but I think this matters considering the context. So from The Independent, Virginia Giuffre's dad insists she didn't die by suicide and claims someone got to her. She also had that viral post from a few years ago. It was 5 years ago, where she said, "I am not suicidal." I don't think she killed herself. You're a rational feller. What do you think happened?
I'm not sure. I don't know too much about the story. It is possible that she did kill herself, but it is really weird that everybody involved in this situation, despite proclaiming that they're not suicidal, seems to just happen to go at a convenient time.
I'll take the contrarian take here. Virginia unfortunately suffered a very tough life. When she was a young woman, she was taken advantage of by a billionaire. And I hate to use the word candidate. I mean, I think you go over what happened throughout her life. I think she'd be a prime candidate from somebody who suffered through so much mental anguish. And then the publicity following this. And then she also, unfortunately, in addition to the correct accusations she made a lot of false accusations that she eventually ended up rescinding, which put a ton of public pressure on her, and it diminished her ability against Alan Dershowitz, that she actually ended up rescinding. She said that Alan Dershowitz was involved in her sexual assaults, which he wasn't, and she ended up rescinding.
How do you know he wasn't?
She said she rescinded it.
Sure did.
And they both did. So so there's a lot of pressure that
now she's
goes
dead.
into being a survivor. Well, she rescinded them before her death. And you never know exactly for sure, but I feel like considering a lot of these factors, it wouldn't be the craziest thing for her to be crushed under so much stress and pressure, considering her life was filled with these horrible acts that were done to her as a child, and now forever being connected to conspiracy and issues with this trial moving forward.
I don't mean to be like graphic, but what was the alleged method, if anybody knows? Because women tend to use specific methods.
I
like
don't know.
pills.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that might go into my calculations on whether or not I buy this. But the father, to be fair to your point, the father probably doesn't want this to be true, because when something like this happens, people around you feel like they missed the sign. So this is like an easier explanation for him.
Like, a sexual assault survivor, a ton of conspiracy surrounding them. I'm sure she's harassed regularly by people on both ends, and there's a ton of conspiracy again surrounding the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, and obviously a lot of actual true fact there. And
I mean, his death is also a conspiracy, like a fodder for conspiracy theory. So, I mean, it's suspicious. I'll just say that. Like, I look at it and I'm like, I don't know about that.
How she died has not been disclosed, but there was also that viral post she made a couple weeks before where she was like, "The doctors tell me I have 4 days to live, I just want to see my kids one last time, which is not something you say
Right.
if you're dying in the hospital. You just bring your kids. So, so it was a very weird statement. And at that time, a lot of people thought it sounded like she was being threatened with death. That the car that hit her was trying to kill her, and she survived, and they're coming for her. And she was basically putting out that message to publicly beg her assassins just to let her see her kids. The bus driver that hit her said, "I have no idea what you're talking about. It was a fender bender. It was a minor bump. Minor bump. It broke the taillight. That's all it did. The car didn't go flying. Nothing."
For
So what happened?
conspiracy's sake, it did take a long time for her to commit suicide, right? If they could have offed her
We actually don't know
a lot
that.
sooner.
We don't know
Okay,
that.
Well,
All we know is that there was a report of an unresponsive person. Look, it's tragic. Okay, if someone takes their own life and they live alone, could be weeks until the mailman comes, until someone says they were supposed to call me 3 days ago, they never did. I'm gonna go knock a wellness check because someone says I can't get a hold of somebody. Cops knock on the door, nobody answers. They leave.
But
Eventually, someone says we got a missing persons. They go in, dead.
for convenience sake, it would have been convenient for Epstein to have had her be gone sooner, a lot sooner, obviously.
Considering that Pam Bondi says that she's got 10,000 new documents and videos, and they're about to release them, I think it is extremely suspicious that now Virginia Giuffre ends her own life.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like the timeline of when this was a story. When you're talking about is not the updates, because it was kind of buried after Epstein's like suspicious death. So that was gone. But then we have the Trump administration saying that they're going to release it, doing that weird like paper document release. But my point is it's coming back up, which honestly could support both theories. Maybe all this is in the news, so she's getting more harassment, or maybe somebody's afraid that stuff is going to be released, and then all of a sudden her testimony becomes more valuable. With this particular case, and I'm somebody who tries to fight against my urge to conspiracy theorize. I think guilty for these people until proven innocent is the standard, because they've lied so much about everything surrounding this. Like, I'm going to need hard evidence to support their theory that this was a suicide.
Mossad's not paying me enough. I can't spin hard enough here. We can move on. Yep. Not a suicide. Okay. Yeah.
I would throw my lot in with not a suicide as well. So,
Yeah. I think she knew a lot more than she let out in just that one statement. I think it is highly improbable that the only person she interacted with was Andrew. And I think one of the only reasons we know about Andrew is because those photos get released.
yep.
You had one defamation suit with information. As we know, she did make accusations you mentioned against Dershowitz. She recanted those. I don't care. Dershowitz is, what was he? He was a Clinton lawyer, wasn't he?
Yep.
And now all of a sudden he's MAGA and he's coming around and he's saying, actually. So I say investigate each and every one of these people. And I'll tell you what, Donald Trump too. I don't give anybody a special pass. I know the stories about why Trump and his family flew on the Epstein jet. A lot of people did. RFK did. Okay. I'm concerned about who actually flew to the island. So we'll do a big investigation. We'll figure out who went to the island. I don't care if it's Trump, RFK Jr., or Bill Clinton, who I'm pretty sure did. We want that list of names because we know who went to the island. Likely was involved in some, just child abuse.
I think no matter, yes, we should get more information. And I thought it was actually really weird that the administration invited a dozen some odd influencers to give them these binders that, reissued the same.
You know the story? There's two stories. Both stories start as this. There was an influencer meeting at the White House. They were brought to talk with J.D. Vance. That was it. And then abruptly, it was like Pam Bondi's team came in and said, here's the first piece of the Epstein files. Now the story splits into two. One was they intentionally scuttled them out the door where the press was to make a big moment. The other story is they were moving the people quickly out of the Rose Garden exit and didn't realize the press was going to make a big stink about it. I actually believe that it was an accident more so based on what I've heard, because Pam Bondi, here's what I think happened. She went on Hannity. She talked smack. I seen the Epstein documents. Oh, yeah, it's bad. Everybody heard her say that and said, okay, release them. And she went, oh, crap, because she didn't have them. So then she was like, I'll give them to some influencers. Then they get shuffled out the door in front of the press. The story goes 10 times bigger, and she goes, crap, now it's bigger, and I don't have anything. So I think it was an accident. And now, we'll see what happens. But anyway,
I don't think there's any amount of documents about this case that Pam Bondi can release that would satisfy some conspiracy-minded people around this, unless it's, whatever she releases, people will demand videos of their political enemies doing the worst things imaginable on camera, and Mossad being involved and orchestrating all this. Unless that comes out word for word, then nobody will be satisfied with no matter what will come out of this investigation.
As long as what the people previously, currently believe is confirmed in there, then they'll believe it. But that's part of the problem with this stuff. None of this, you're right, none of this will solve anything. No one's going to see whatever comes out and say, oh, well, man, I thought one thing and now I don't. That is not going to happen at all.
You need to have the person that is in their mind, like you're saying, that has to be there. So if there's no Bill Clinton, everybody's going to be like, it's a cover up for the Clintons.
Yeah.
If there's no Donald Trump, exactly.
Yeah, it's a cover up for the Trumps. But I just hope Pam Bondi discovers a PDF. If she wants to release the next batch of documents, I would really appreciate that. I have a bad feeling that paper is going to be followed up with little JVC tapes. So you're going to have to take those home, plug them up into those little video cameras.
8 tracks.
Yeah, hook it up to the TV, and that's how you're gonna have to view it.
I guess my biggest
there are more efficient ways to release this.
She's gonna release one single film reel spool, and just there you go. That's the information. Every document, each document is a single frame, and the videos are all in that roll of film.
And it's gonna have to be that old film that has that silver nitrates in it, so it's super flammable. So you need a 100-year-old projector.
As she hands it to someone, she's handing it off just as they're installing a new window, which lines up with the sun, and then just bursts into flames. Oh, geez, oh no, that was her only copy.
She gives it to the Gen Z conservative influencer. She's like, you know what to do with this. They're like, I don't even know what a DVD is. What do you mean I know what to do with this?
So I just wanted to have one last point here. Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and associates' crimes are obviously horrific and unspeakably evil, and I don't want to diminish that at all, but I think one of the issues I have here is that I feel as though most people know more about this Jeffrey Epstein stuff than a lot of tangible politics that could affect more of their life, or electoral stuff that could affect more of their life. So for example, right now in Georgia, there are 2 Democrat senators that could probably both be Republican, and Brian Kemp, the most popular Republican in Georgia, decided not to run for a seat that he would almost for sure be able to win. So instead of focusing on some important, tangible politics that could affect a close Senate that's 50-50. I think Republicans actually have a couple of seat edge. It's Jeffrey Epstein stuff getting rehashed every single night. And I feel like we're missing on it's an important story again. And I don't want to diminish it, but I don't want you to become, so-called Epstein pilled in the head where you're missing any other bigger.
What do you think people in chat are saying about you?
I don't care because
Assad.
I don't mind, but I'm not led by the chat. I think audience capture is probably the worst thing. I'm an anti-populist, but we could go on to the.
Let's jump to this next story from the Miami Herald. Pam Bondi makes another claim on the Epstein files, and even Republicans are skeptical. They say it's been nearly 70 days since Pam Bondi promised the public release of the Epstein files. It took a skeptical remark from a top Republican congressman to force her to explain why she hasn't followed through. Quote, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn, and there are hundreds of victims, and no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I've got advice for Pam Bondi. Don't release images of victims. We're good. What's that? You still have to go through other documents and files? Okay, then release them every Friday. There you go. Problem
section
solved.
By section.
Indeed.
To be fair to Pam Bondi, and I don't buy this excuse, but I feel like I kind of have to explain. I recently, with a friend of mine, Devin Tracy, requested court documents from a case that the Innocence Project was working on. And by the way, the Innocence Project was lying about that case. And that involved children that were victimized. So they send you the documents, but they have to have somebody redact the names. So we have these documents. And guess what? Not all of the names are redacted in all of the files. And this is just one trial, 1,400 pages being scanned. So if there's actually tens of thousands of documents, I don't think it's the videos that are the issue. Because, if it's adult content featuring children, you just don't release that. But if it's paper and it has the names of the people on it, if they can't handle that for one trial, one case, then I can understand why this could take a long time. But 70 days into her promise to release this is a much worse excuse than
they called the first binders phase 1. Okay, well, phase 1 could have been a month later when they were like, if Pam came out and said, we have tens of thousands of videos and documents, We are going through them. We have limited manpower. Okay, understand the DOJ is trying to do a lot of things, not just this one case, but we are prioritizing a lot. Here's batch number 2, and then you get even if it was 10 pages, people would be screaming and cheering. 10 pages, names redacted of victims, and information explaining what Epstein was doing, confirming some details. Even if it was the slightest confirmation, people would say thank you.
But who can have this? Like, they can't put a bunch of staff on this, because if they do, it's going to leak out. Like, and whatever they want to decide to put out versus what they don't want to,
So
because
what
it's
if
a
it
huge.
leaks out?
No, I'm fine with it leaking out. But if you want to protect the identities of alleged victims and
there's
all that,
supposed to be video,
like
that's what they're going through, video, right?
But like, if you can't put more than maybe, I don't know, 5-10 people on this, and even then, the chances of it leaking are extraordinarily high. Remember, we had that Supreme Court decision leak. Each justice only has like 4 or 5 law clerks. That still went out there. It's still a mystery that we can't possibly solve. So I could just imagine the hottest case of the last 10 years. If you put the whole like a huge portion of the staff on this, then you're going to get it leaked out. So if they need to explain this, they need to make this statement. Like, I'm arguing of what I think might happen, but like, yeah, it would leak out. Like, I understand that, but they're not making that case. So I think they're more nonsensical.
From what I've heard, or at least as far as I understand, like one of the reasons that they're claiming is because there's video evidence of underage, like actual graphic video of underage people. So, and I don't know. I mean, obviously they likely wouldn't still be underage, but you still don't want to put that stuff out there. And I mean, look, as much as people want to know what happened and they want information, I think that if they're actually trying to make sure that there's graphic footage is not released to the public, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know if, and again, I'm still of the opinion that unless the video evidence confirms people's priors, it won't really matter anyways.
There's no excuse for them not releasing anything. They should have released anything, even a single page.
Yeah.
So what's the deal? They have nothing. It's fake. They're lying. Pam Bondi got in over her head. She made a comment on Hannity about having the documents. Turned out they were old documents with nothing really substantive in it. Now she looks like an idiot. Is that what's happening?
Do you know how hard it is to order the floppy disk that they intend on releasing this on? Because they have to do it in the least efficient way possible. But no, you're right. They should have released something, like some sections of it. If somebody's working on it 70 days, like, we should have something to look at. I mean, don't we have a Department of Government Efficiency to fire people who can't do simple tasks like this? Like, this should be a
We should
simple
put
thing.
Doge on finding the documents. Elon Musk's last thing that he does while still working at the White House.
Somebody found out that Letitia James, actually, this wasn't even the government, listed her father as her husband on a mortgage application in 1983. So, like, get that guy on there. Get Crazy Eddie on this particular issue, and he'll figure out what's up.
Get Cernovich back on the case.
I don't think he's off the case. I just think that Pam Bondi is, I don't know that I believe they have anything. Right? This is the...
Imagine this was a nothing story, like Jeffrey Epstein didn't do anything wrong.
Likely story, huh, Sean?
Yeah, he was framed. No, I think the real issue is that people in power destroyed the story a long time ago. Remember Bill Clinton? I mean, yes, Bill Clinton, but remember Bill Gates? He was in that interview, I think it was like BBC, and then they asked him about Epstein. He's like, well, he's dead now, so what does it matter?
Jesus.
And everyone was like, what does that mean?
The conspiracy brain part of me would say there's actually a bipartisan consensus on trying to keep most of this under wraps, if anything. Like, that's, between the two parties, they're both down because he recruited from both parties.
Yeah.
So that's how you get the
Indeed.
ultimate protection.
But I kind of think it's going to be a
Bipartisan
lot of
support.
Democrats.
A ton, I'm sure, but a ton of Republicans too. And Donald Trump even just photographed. If there's another photo of him with Jeffrey Epstein, not even necessarily in an act, it's like such a PR nightmare.
Yeah, he ain't running again, though.
I think it's going to be less Republicans than you think, because, Republicans are more into dudes secretly, not little kids.
Yep. That was the problem Epstein had, is that all the Republicans he found were gay, and all the Democrats were pedos. And what is up with that? A lot of gay Republicans.
Many gay the log cabin Republicans are taking over the party, huh?
I guess. There's just a lot of stories of Republicans who were like anti-LGBTQ stuff, and then it turned out that they were actually gay the whole time.
Yeah, super anti it, and then they it turns out they're in the
What was that story
spending
about
time
that
at
guy in
truck
the
stops.
airport?
Oh, the airport bathroom guy. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
what was
which
that
one.
all
Oh yeah.
That was I forget it was a senator or who that was, but that was an Idaho guy.
Oh, wait,
Idaho representative. I think a congressman. Don't really remember the whole story, but yeah, he.
Doing favors in the bathrown at the airport.
Well, he
I
was.
don't know that.
He
He
was
was-
signaling.
The Larry Craig scandal. Is that
Larry
what that
Craig.
was?
That's right. Yeah,
Oh.
Senator from Idaho.
that's right.
He was arrested for lewd conduct in a men's restroom in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
He was signaling,
Yeah.
doing a homosexual
The
bird
gays
call.
have signals.
That's an outrageous
Okay,
culture to have.
let's get the facts here from the best source, Wikipedia.
Yeah.
He was arrested for disorderly. They say at 12:16, Craig tapped his right foot. I recognize this as a signal used by persons wishing to engage in lewd conduct. Craig tapped his toes several times and moves his foot closer to my foot. The presence of others did not seem to deter Craig as he moved his right foot so that it touched the side of my left foot, which was within my stall area. Craig then proceeded to swipe his left hand under the stall divider several times with the palm of his hand facing upward. He just needed some TP.
Dude.
That's all it was. He said, I could just spare a single ply.
I like the term "in my stall area."
This happened when I was in high school, so it's like the biggest joke for ever
yeah.
for a long period of time there.
Homosexual culture is extremely hypersexual. To think that you have like call signs because among heteros we don't have like tap
That's because
outside.
women
the-
and men are
Yeah,
different.
because sliding your foot under the door in a women's bathroom is not going to get you.
no,
laid.
but even like
Yo, wait. So it was a cop.
yeah.
He was signaling to a cop.
It was a sting operation.
So
or
then,
something like that, right?
I don't think it was it a sting?
No, he was
yeah.
he was just in the bathroom.
Oh wow, even crazy.
So wait, the officer showed Craig his police identification beneath the partition separating the stalls, and the officer then pointed his finger towards the restroom exit. Craig said no, but ultimately complied with the officer's request to leave the restroom.
Because he thought he had handcuffs.
oh my god,
Craig was reluctant to go. Why didn't Craig just be like, I was asking for toilet paper?
Yeah.
it wasn't his first rodeo.
Well, how did this cop know what was going on?
Yeah, the cop's like, I recognize these signals.
For
He
real,
wouldn't
though.
stop.
No, like,
he kept signaling to him. He
like, bro,
wouldn't
look,
stop.
I gotta miss. If I'm sitting in a stall doing my business and some guy starts like bumping his foot against mine, I'd be like, hey, yo, F off. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Maybe the cop like dates based on shoes, and like he didn't like his shoes, so he's like, you know what, this is an arrest right here.
This was a senator from where?
Idaho.
Idaho. Oh, your home state.
Craig apparently just
Serge.
stated that he was doing a wide stance and his foot must have touched yours.
Was he a Mormon or something too?
No idea.
Because I think in Idaho, don't you guys have many Mormons there? Am I making that up?
I know they have
you're not.
potatoes.
Okay,
Yeah, we have a lot of
no,
Mormons
because
there.
then I'm sure they're represented in Republican politics.
I feel like he
There's
should
something
have
there,
been
too,
able to
among
get out of this, though. You're right.
be-
He should
to
have been
be-
able to
to-
say toilet paper or some.
But
such
it's not
thing.
just that. Why are we believing this is true?
Well, he did plead guilty.
He
so-
pleaded guilty to disorderly, but like, if this happened right now, nobody believe it. If a Republican was in a bathroom and a cop arrested him and claimed he was trying to engage in some kind of like lewd behavior, people would be like, "Bull, no way,"
He has a-
because of the lawfare.
My problem is that, like, if you're gonna lie better. He has a terrible excuse. I was reading this. It says he had a wide stance, and like that's how he touched his foot. I think there's a big difference between tapping your foot and then grazing somebody and then standing wide when you're taking a leak. I find this to be very
Resignation,
awkward.
reconsideration, and then motion to withdraw guilty plea. More allegations emerge.
Oh, look,
It keeps
here's
getting
what
better.
he said. He said,
Yeah,
I
it's
did
way
nothing
longer.
wrong at the airport. I regret my decision to plead guilty, and the sadness that decision has brought to my wife, family, friends, and fellow Idahoans. For that, I apologize. In June, I overreacted and made a poor decision when while I was not involved in any inappropriate conduct at the airport or anywhere else. I chose to plead guilty to a lesser charge than of making it go away. I did not seek any counsel either from an attorney, staff, friends, or family. That was a mistake, and I deeply regret it. Because of that, I have now retained counsel. He claimed that his state of mind was troubled at the time of the guilty plea, and his family had been relentlessly and viciously harassed.
That's when he realized he could deny it.
I got to be honest, like what?
a moron.
But he
He's
didn't.
like, wait a minute, there's a not guilty plea?
Hey, I could get away with this.
What?
More allegations emerge.
Yeah, it went around for years.
Improper conduct.
Yeah, not his
discredited.
first rodeo. That's wild.
I'm just saying right now, if like Marco Rubio was in a bathroom and a cop arrested him and claimed that he was propositioning him, nobody'd buy it.
No one.
We'd all say absolutely no way. We don't believe it. Like there's no evidence here. It's literally just a cop said he tapped him with his foot.
If this happened today, then what he would have done is walked out of the bathroom, called a 10-year-old black kid the N-word, and then raised enough money to fight this case all the way.
We live in very weird times. Like it's 2025. Who'd have predicted? Man, I can tell you all about the 90s. But can you imagine, the Gen Z kids that are like teenagers today? not the older 20s ones, and then also the Gen Alpha that are younger growing up, and they're going to be like, yeah, when I was a kid, dropping N-bombs on the internet made you $1 million.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's a terrifying thing to say, but it's a good time to be a really bad person.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're the standards that, but either whether Republican or Democrat, when it comes to the political arena, the standards have never been lower.
Has that Hinton guy's Give Send Go gotten any traction? Because I saw that and I was...
Which guy?
Hinton?
Rodney Hinton Jr. He ran over a sheriff's deputy a day after he saw the body cam that showed his son.
GoFundMe nuked his fundraiser.
Yeah, but Give Send Go allows you to raise money for your criminal
$10,000.
defense. Yeah, that's what I was... Okay.
So what is this story?
It's his son, Ryan Hinton Jr. They had body cam footage that was released of him being shot. He was found in a stolen car with 4 other people. They all flee as soon as the police show up. He has a gun in his hand. He stumbles and falls. You can hear the gun hit the pavement. Instead of leaving it, he picks it back up. Everybody yells out, gun, gun, gun. He became the main target of the officers. Officer ends up shooting him dead. Rodney Hinton Jr., the father of Ryan, sees the body cam footage for the Cincinnati Police Department because they show it to him with his lawyer. He leaves that meeting and then sees a sheriff's deputy, completely different department, retired officer, directing traffic for the University of Cincinnati graduation. And this is where things are alleged because he's not convicted. And he decides to, according to the witnesses, like square up his car, lined it up with the retired sheriff's deputy, and runs him down, killing him. And thank God there's not money for like a ton of money for this, but there are people that are supporting him as
$10,000.
Yeah.
Well, so hold on. The dude's kid was in a stolen car, had a gun, got shot by police. So he went and killed a random retired sheriff's deputy?
From a different department. Yeah. And people are saying, there's a lot of TikTokers that are saying that this is justice for the the unjustified killing of his son. But if you look at the case, his son had the gun in his hand when the police shot him.
To say unjustified is ridiculous. He had a gun. He went to pick it up. When the cops said, drop your gun, drop the gun, he didn't comply. That will get you shot every single time.
He also ran between the dumpsters, like 2 dumpsters, so he was obscured when they knew he had the gun. He comes out, the officer says, and the video's unclear at this point, to be fair. He says that they were in a bladed position, but the gun was pointed at him, which means that it was pointed from the side that was away from the officer. So it's like your left shoulder, no gun, gun in the right hand, and this is what's facing the officer. They shoot him, he gets hit twice, he dies.
Yeah.
And then this guy murders, allegedly, he hasn't been convicted yet, a completely different officer. And then what's crazy is the story is this retired cop had a lot of friends because he was a cop for like 20-something years. They show up to the court like in force, and they're like, look, those racist cops, they showed up to intimidate this black man. It's wild.
I've been
we have a story here that GoFundMe nuked all fundraisers supporting an Ohio father accused of killing a sheriff's deputy after more than 20,000 members of the state law enforcement community complained. Wow. They say Hinton Jr. allegedly ran over and killed a Hamilton County sheriff's deputy a day after his teenage son was shot and killed by a Cincinnati police officer. The younger Hinton stole a car, was shot and killed while he and 3 others tried to evade police. Jeez, man.
Look, man, when they tell you to drop the gun, you have to drop the gun. Like, I've gone to a bunch of like handgun classes and stuff like that, and one of the things that I've been like multiple times when during the course of fire, over the course of a weekend, you'll be doing some exercise, and then the instructor will just out of nowhere just yell, "Police, drop the gun," and everybody has to drop the gun. Like it's basically a drill. But the point is, if you hear that, especially considering the situation that you're supposed to be in, is you're a private citizen using a gun lawfully to defend your life. If the cops say drop the gun, you have to drop it, or you're going to get shot.
My favorite misrepresentation of this is that, it's legal to open carry in Ohio.
That's dumb.
Like, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. And again, God tried to help him drop the gun. When he fell, it hit the ground. He picked it back up. That's a bad decision right there for Ryan Hinton. And it ended up costing him his life. And now a sheriff's deputy is dead. Again, allegedly by this person, confirmed by multiple witnesses at this moment in time.
Yeah. I mean, it's the idea that people would defend the people that or defend the man that ran down a cop from another, totally other department and stuff. It's absurd in the first place, and it points to the idea or the argument that racial relations in the U.S. are degrading. And look, I'm obviously on the right, but I definitely feel like the racial relations are degrading because of things like wokeness and because of the left.
And to follow up on that, it's a sad state of affairs seeing a lot of these Give, Send, Go fundraisers. For example, Luigi Mangione raising over $1 million. Carmelo Anthony, the guy accused of stabbing the... It's racialized because it was a black teenager stabbing a white teenager who died at a track meet. There's some other details there. And then there's the N-word woman, both raising close to $500,000. So
now she's at $730K.
Yeah. What does that say about our state of affairs, of our racial dynamics?
Take a look at the Carmelo Anthony fundraiser. Well, the response from many of these people was specifically black solidarity, not whether he was innocent or guilty.
Yeah,
but same with the N-word girl.
Yes, but that's after the fact.
That's a crucial point, is that people aren't donating to Carmelo Anthony's fund because they think he's innocent. They're doing it because they know he's guilty and they support him. Like, I played this clip repeatedly of the O.J. Simpson trial of the jurors that they interviewed, and they asked the juror how many people on the jury voted not guilty based on revenge for Rodney King, because the evidence in the O.J. Simpson case is pretty overwhelming. And the juror says, most of us. And then he asked her specifically if she did, and she said yes. Like, this is like those photos of the white people being upset at the guilty verdict and black people cheering for it. So again, like, you were saying they're defending it. It's not really defending it. It's they support it. It's justified. Like these small section of people, whether they're misinformed or the activists on social media, like they support this kid. Like they're in favor of what happened.
These people are turning into symbols for the worst things, and people are supporting them. And I'm still dwelling on the Luigi Mangione stuff because I feel like he was not the original fundraiser for doing horrible things, but it's a concerning state of affairs where we're seeing vigilantes and I think like racists and racially charged crimes.
It's all on the left, though.
Mangione, they don't put up a criminal defense for him. They don't say that the CEO is coming at him or anything of the sort. They say they support him. He shot this man in the back, walked up and double tapped him on video, and they're pretending like, oh, well, United was a bad company, which, a lot of people don't like United. I understand, but like that has nothing to do with anything.
And he wasn't even a CEO for very long.
Yeah. And by the way, no person got their claim reversed because of this guy getting killed.
And there are people that question whether or not the shooter is actually Mangione, but that doesn't matter because they support the shooter. The point is they endorse the behavior. It doesn't matter if it was actually Luigi or not.
They question that because if you remember, there's that photo of him where he's in the hostel in New York where he looks like Jake Gyllenhaal, and then when people saw him in different angles, they didn't think he was hot enough. So that's why they were questioning.
I don't
think
think the same person. When this story first came out, and they showed the first public interest photos of Mangione, I would say half the posts I saw were saying that's not the same guy. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they find Mangione in a McDonald's with an orgy of evidence, like out of a movie. And some McDonald's employee was like, that's the guy. I spotted him. I'm like, what? What do you mean you spotted him? You can't recognize. Bro, people don't recognize Brad Pitt when he walks down the street. I get it. Sometimes they do, but you'd be surprised. Go to California, you walk around, celebrities be walking on the street, and people be like, is that so-and-so? It's hard to tell because movies are all different. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But the first surveillance video that came out was a different coat with a different backpack, and the guy looked middle-aged. Then they said, here's who we're looking for, and it was a different coat, different backpack, and a younger guy with bushy eyebrows. And I'm like, that doesn't... I was even saying, like, that's not the same guy. That's a different picture. Somebody... I was assuming they were looking for a witness. And then they're like, we were at a McDonald's, and he was there with all the evidence proving everything. And I'm like, okay.
But by the way,
see though,
I think with the weapon too.
As I was driving in with the, I was listening to the press conference that Carmelo Anthony's PR representative, that Anthony guy, was having, and he was talking about booting the father from the press conference, and he was like, "Yeah, this guy was here in a place that he wasn't supposed to be, and like we were worried that maybe he had a weapon on him or something, and that could have presented a danger to us. So obviously we weren't going to start the press conference until after he was removed." This is the guy defending Carmelo Anthony.
Okay,
Everything he said is completely applicable to the Carmelo Anthony case.
What's happening now is the Carmelo Anthony defense is raising money not because they think he's innocent. They're saying they think he is, but it's because largely, not completely, but largely because he's black. The posts on social media are saying it was a black kid being bullied by a white kid. They're saying Austin Metcalf was 6 foot, was he 220 or something?
And they put out different weights for him, so I don't know.
I think the official weight listed on the athlete's website, we pulled this up, we were debating it, was like 6 foot 200 or so, 220 or something like that. And so the left is coming out saying this poor 130-pound black kid was being bullied by a 6 foot white kid, and he was defending himself. But most of the comments were just saying black solidarity. They were saying black people got to stick together. They don't care about the facts of the case. They care about the racial identity. Yeah. Now what's happening with Shiloh Hendricks is the exact same thing. Yeah. But what's happening is the conservative. So there are a lot of white identitarians that are donating to her. But the conservative stance is they've created a circumstance where there's a moral outrage comparing saying a naughty word and murdering someone. And this is playing into exactly why there are many conservatives cheering on Shiloh Hendricks. They're saying outright, this proves that a racial slur is considered by these people worse than murdering a teenager.
Yep.
To be fair, like clearly, obviously, the racial epithet towards a child that fluctuates in age depending on who's telling the story is nowhere near the scale of murder. I think we all agree on that. We all understand that.
Did you see the? Or finish your point. Sorry.
But like that still doesn't mean that you're like the thing that bothers me about her is that yes, she shouldn't be doxxed. Like if you're gonna give her like some money to like prevent her from having to stay in the same location where she could be in danger, I can understand that. But if you go to the Give Send Go description, she's doubling down. She's like, I called him out for what he was. Yeah. So it's not like a moment of passion, a moment of anger, or something of the sort. She's doubling it down, and I hate to say it, and I said it in my video, and you're gonna get dislikes just like I did. But like, people are donating because they like that she called this little black kid the N-word. Like, and then she's doubling down on it. It's not really that deep for
I don't think
some of these
most
people.
of the donation for some of them.
Not all, obviously.
I think most of it is I'm sick of living in a world where minorities or non-white groups are allowed to insult white people based on race.
Sure.
And what we're seeing a lot of the comments, they're saying things like white people don't get to go to certain schools. There was a viral post getting shared from Reddit. And it was a woman, it was a woman, and she was like looking for advice. My son did everything right. We worked really, really hard. He's got a 4.0 GPA. He does extracurriculars, but he's being rejected by every single university. And the top comment was, your son is white. That went viral in response to the Shiloh thing. It is people, I was talking to Carl Benjamin about this, and he was like, this is a conversation that the anti-SJW groups were having a long time ago, that if you keep promoting identitarianism while attacking white people, you will create white identitarian groups. It's exactly what they did. I want to grab one super chat. I think it's funny though in this context. Doug Dibidone says Henry Cavill stood underneath the Superman ad in Times Square for 2 hours and no one recognized him, let alone Finding Luigi. I'll also add another guy did the opposite. There's a viral video from back in the day where he hired like 15 people with cameras to chase after him when he walked out of a building in Times Square. So he walks out wearing sunglasses and like a blazer, and then all these cameras run up and start taking pictures of him. Crowds form, all trying to look and see who he is, and they're yelling at him and they're asking for photos. And he was making the point, like, celebrity is just a crowd reaction.
Yeah.
And then I've seen, there's been a bunch of times in my life where, for instance, I was outside of a supermarket and I saw, Jake Gyllenhaal. I literally saw Jake Gyllenhaal, and nobody cared. It's LA. He was just walking in. I was at a cafe in where was this? It was what's the name of that place?
What place?
Abbey. What's it called in LA? I don't know.
Abbey Road. I mean,
no. I can't remember the name of the neighborhood. But Tobey Maguire was walking around. Nobody cared. Nobody said anything to him. And so I'm like, you mean to tell me from this grainy photo in a McDonald's, some employee was like, that's that guy from the grainy photo in New York. And the cops showed up and they got him. There is one conspiracy theory I've heard that I think is also plausible, and it's that the U.S. government has a mass surveillance network that the American people don't realize, and the police need an excuse as to how they found him so quickly without saying it's because we got facial recognition, AI software in every camera, everywhere, networked. So the moment we got a hit, we found him like in the movies.
There is something to that. There was a Supreme Court case on them finding these burglars that eluded them by tracking like all the cell phone data in the area and using that to identify them. And I believe the court ruled that that could be used for their case because it was a good faith effort, but it's like not applicable going forward that they use those methods. And by the way, one point about the donors to the Carmelo Anthony fundraiser, a lot of them are not in this camp where they're like, yes, get Whitey and all that. They've fallen for the disinformation in that particular case too, because if you go online, first of all, 5 years later, people still think Kyle Rittenhouse drove across state lines and shot black people. So like, it's not like the facts ever penetrate in certain areas of society. But in that particular case, a lot of these people genuinely believe that two white kids who were bullying Carmelo Anthony for years jumped him, broke his phone, and all this other stuff that has been put out in Facebook reports and whatnot. So those people are just dumb. But yeah, there's like an overall sinister element hiding in the not dumb people in both of these fundraisers.
Do you think racial tensions in our country are brewing? Are they just being exposed as a result of social media? Do you think they're being exacerbated as a result of social media? I'm also concerned because I don't know if there's more, white resentment brewing as a result of so many policies that seem to dispossess whites over the past 50 to 100 years in our country between, different DEI programs, different white people in our country essentially being told to be ashamed of our history and whatnot. And it's just, having said all that, though, I mean, we did have segregation and slavery in our country. So I don't know how much, better or worse our relationships could have been. Race relations could have been compared to that.
Look, in the U.S., we do have a unique context because of the Jim Crow and because of slavery and stuff like that. But the fact that these ideas spread globally, I think that it shows that there is a leftist push to have these narratives be the dominant narratives because that gives people access to power.
I think there's something too about social media essentially allowing an Instamob to pop up for any reason immediately for any cause in every which direction. And again, I don't know if it exposes our racial divisions or further exacerbates the ones that are already there. Because otherwise, decades or centuries ago, these people would have been irrelevant unless the news wrote about them and they would have been, subheadline gone.
Abbott Kinney, not Abbey. Abbott Kinney, that's the neighborhood in L.A. where there's a coffee shop and Toby McGuire. Abbey is the gay bar in West Hollywood, which I've also been there too.
Oh,
I'm not.
Why?
It's like a hot spot for celebrities. It's like look, if you're going to L.A., celebrities are all like, oh man, the Abbey, and then like they go to West Hollywood because they think they're cool and they're progressive, and then you end up going with there with some friends, and then you're not gay and you're like, this is kind of gay, I don't know what I'm doing here. But that's what happens when you live in a city. I've been to lesbian bars too.
Did you feel weird because I went to a gay bar in West Hollywood once and I realized that I was the least attractive dude there? like those gays,
that's basically it.
Those gays in West Hollywood, they have like almost like CGI muscles. Like it's so ridiculous.
All the guys are basically just like, they all look like the exact same thing, like 40-year-old ripped fitness instructors.
Yeah, that's that
was like,
or like 70-year-old senators, I don't know, in bathrooms at the airport.
Not in Hollywood.
Finding out I was a gay too was probably like the most disappointing moment of my entire life.
You're gay? Finding out what?
No, a gay too. Like if I were to flip teams, I would be at the bottom of their total.
Oh
yeah.
I thought you meant gay also. I was like,
no, a gay
that explains why you're at the bar.
2 out of 10.
Yeah, that's got.
I am married to a lady.
Yeah.
We have this story from the Daily Mail. This is a weird day. No one believed Trump hotel shooter Jonathan Adi's bizarre Diddy claims until now. I'm just gonna tell you the story. This guy John Adi went into Trump Doral with a gun and a flag, ranting about something to do with Obama, Trump, and Diddy. Cops show up. For some reason, he gets into a shootout with the cops. He gets shot in the legs, arrested, and then he starts claiming he was a sex slave for Diddy. And at the time, everyone's like, he's nuts. Well, apparently now they're releasing his NDA, which I think they have here in the Daily Mail. It's been reported he had an NDA with Diddy, which backs up the claims that he was doing untoward things. It also, here's the other claim this guy Johnny made, that Diddy's a cuck.
Whoa.
Literally. That this guy Adi was instructed to do things with, Diddy's lady. And then Diddy would watch.
Sounds like Diddy's
and he would enjoy it.
a lot more than a cuck. Seems like he's a lot of things.
Well, but like one of the things is cuck. Yeah. They say that this 100% gives a lot of truth and legitimacy to everything he was speaking about, said Adi's former wife, Tanya Troutwine. It definitely confirms the relationship and closeness between them. Johnny was a smart guy, and he would have picked up on things. And the fact that Diddy even signed an agreement with him and didn't just write him off tells me that Diddy had some level of respect for him. This is so weird. Yo, the Diddy trials started, and this is what we're learning. He says that he had relations with Cassie Ventura, Sean Combs. Basically, he would and tell me what to do to Cassie. I was like a sex slave.
That's
This is what they're replacing the Epstein story with. The Diddy, he's going to be the new.
Yeah, but apparently Diddy was Epstein for celebrities.
Oh,
Yep. The idea
Epstein
is
was
that
politicians. Epstein gets and
Yep.
Diddy gets the
politicians.
and they all worked for Mossad, apparently. I read that in the chat.
I'm waiting for the Israel connection to Diddy. I'm sure his producer was Jewish.
yeah,
I'm sure there
the
were
music
Jews
industry.
involved.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's plenty of Jews in the music industry, so there's plenty of blame to go around.
Was your manager Jewish?
My manager is Jewish. My business manager is Jewish. Guys that owned the label that I used to be on were Jewish, so I was surrounded by Jews. So that means that I'm, of course, being paid because the label was owned by Jews. I'm being paid by Jews.
You know what I would say to those Jews who managed your band?
What's that?
Thank you for helping me learn about some great music.
I
It's
have
very nice
thanked
of you.
them multiple times.
So like this is obviously surprising because he went on to commit like that much more serious crime, but it should not be
Much more serious.
Like, well, I don't know. Actually, Diddy's accused of a lot of crazy things, but he ended up committing a more serious crime after the fact. But it shouldn't be that surprising because like these are the types of people that criminals associate with. Other criminals with sketchy records. This is how a lot of cases are built. So the idea that him doing something bizarre later, like, it's a shooting, but he also has like all these rants about all the people that he's connected to. Like it shouldn't be that disqualifying for his his testimony, especially when we now have something to like kind of back this up.
Or this guy, John Adi, was saying that he was being stalked and followed by Diddy's people. Was the reason he went into the hotel ranting and raving is because he was being enslaved by Diddy and couldn't escape. And so the only way for him to get safely away was to, I don't know if he was trying to get into a shit with cops, but do something like going into Trump and saying, help me, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then it goes south or whatever. But now we're only hearing about it because they took him in.
Yeah. Well, but now we have the NDA too. I would like to see how the NDA looks, but
Yeah, let me see if I can find it. Because apparently it's, they released it, I think. Let's see. 15 hours ago, is this the story? Oh, they locked it?
Oh, really?
Yeah, they don't want anyone to see it.
Uh-oh.
I bet I can just click images and it'll pop up. There it is.
That they were Jews.
Got it.
Locked it.
yeah, it's so true.
His lawyer's probably Jewish.
They locked the story, but if you go on Google, it pops
Lawyer
right
is
up.
not Jewish.
He's not.
He's not.
It's trouble. You should
He's
find
like a
one.
7-foot Scandinavian.
You need a better lawyer.
I just want to make sure there's nothing. Okay, they blurred it. Yeah, here we go. Confidential settlement agreement. Jonathan Adi and Sean Combs, let's see, sworn to and subscribed before me on this day, July 2014. And then there's the signature is blurred. The notary is blurred. And yeah, I don't know. They claim this is it. A confidential settlement
if
agreement.
this was admitted into evidence, presumably it would be authenticated. There are rare instances where something gets admitted that's not authenticated, and blurring the notary number is very good because that's just a random person that they got to notarize this.
Right.
And that number is easily looked up. The wife is a notary.
But this says confidential settlement agreement.
Yeah.
For like $5 million. So what? I don't know if it still proves that Diddy did anything.
It's a lot of money for like a random guy. It's like,
Yeah.
you remember when Bill O'Reilly was in trouble and they released the numbers for settlements? He was getting paid like $31 million a year from Fox, but they settled.
crazy.
They settled like one case for $32 million. It's like, that's a little, like, I'm not saying he didn't admit fault, but like $32 million is a lot of money to give somebody that you didn't do something to.
I don't think it has the number on here, but they were claiming $5 million. And their evidence of this is that this dude, John Adi, apparently was broke. And then shortly after this date, he bought 5 properties that were each like $1 million.
Just like a
were $700,000
lottery winner.
Yeah, and he divorced his wife right away. And she said she thought it was because Diddy was going to pay him this money and he didn't want to give it to her. He didn't want to split it with her.
That's depressing to me because $5 million, you should never go broke ever. Just invest it. Regular index funds, you could live off the dividends. You'd be fine. Average return 8% a year. That's $400K to live off of. Schmuck.
I don't know.
It's possible.
Like, I maybe 10 years ago, but the rate of inflation, the cost of property taxes, I don't know, man.
Well, he doesn't need to be buying all these properties.
That I get. Like, you could take $5 million and probably set up a retirement fund and then live on a budget for sure. But you should just keep working.
Yeah. But I'm saying if your options are buy a bunch of properties and end up doing a shooting in a Trump hotel, or
you could just
let me weigh the two options.
Try living off the dividends of regular ordinary investments and index funds.
Depends on the interest rates, I guess.
Well, the interest. But
I do think that you should always skip doing a shooting at Trump Hotel. That should always.
Imagine if instead he just bought Bitcoin in 2014 with $5 million.
I mean, like people say, oh man, if only I could go back to 2013, 2014 and buy Bitcoin. It's like, why don't you just go back to 2009 when you could literally just mine it on your laptop before it was worth anything. Actually, I was reading something the other day. You could buy 1,000 Bitcoin for $1 in 2010.
The first transaction on Bitcoin, I believe, was a pizza, which is about $20, 10,000 Bitcoin.
10,000 Bitcoin for this Bitcoin Pizza Day. I believe it's May 22nd. Yeah. But it was October, because they started running Bitcoin in January, and within the first year, it actually turned into a currency.
I think if people did buy back then, they would have sold at 200. If they would have bought at 200, they would have sold at 1,000. It's
some people did, yeah. But remember, if you bought 10,000 of them, right, and then you sell half of them at whatever $200, you're like, oh wow, but I imagine there were people that still had some left.
Yeah,
for sure.
So.
I know.
What a weird day. Like all of these stories coming out just right now.
All in the very end of the day.
Bannon was saying, I think it was Bannon said that by midsummer we should expect to see some arrests, like Trump administration corruption arrests. Do you think that's going to happen?
He's sick.
I don't know. Like we got to see how these cases break out. Like I just hope everything is I's dotted, T's crossed if they're going to do something like that. Mm-hmm. But like I'm still first Trump administration did not prosecute these people. Maybe they learned their lesson. Who knows? I would want to see how the Letitia James case ends up shaking out. That's a good determination.
I think people like Kash Patel are the type of people who may end up going after some of these people, but I'm not extremely hopeful, all things considered. The first administration, I don't think the people who Trump brought on would be the type who'd go for retribution, but I forget what the Kash Patel quote is that everybody in the media keeps fear-mongering on him in regard to, but...
The charging decisions will be made by the Department of Justice, so like Kash Patel can be Kash Patel, but like... I still think it's ultimately Pam Bondi, and then whoever would be Attorney General if she were to leave for whatever reason.
It's only been a few months. I'd like to see some sign of action, but I give Cash and Dan every benefit of the doubt because there's no way Dan Bongino left his lucrative life to go and accomplish nothing. He's going to get the job done. He's going to get something done.
Yeah, that's actually a fairly strong argument. He's not going to just go into government just to go into government and sit around and do nothing.
Give up tens of millions of dollars for the next 4 years to do nothing.
Listen to the stuff the content that he talks about or that he used to talk about on his podcast. Like he really does believe the stuff that he's talking about. And I think that him going to the FBI is him putting his money where his mouth is.
Well, let's jump to this next story from Post Millennial. Statue of overweight black woman inspired by Michelangelo's David erected in Times Square to celebrate diversity. I was just asking myself the other day, when are we going to get a statue of an overweight black woman in Times Square? And then they did it.
Those inner worlds that we have, and sometimes we misinterpret with one another to try and create an understanding.
Is that Sargon?
And basically encourage.
Carl, what are you doing?
Celebrating. I think liberals are insane. What about you?
Yeah, I think this is insanity, and in my city, ridiculous, absurd. But I do have a question. Has anybody here seen the David like in person?
The David?
Yeah,
Where is
the
it?
actual
In
statue
Italy or whatever?
It's in Florence in the museum. Anybody?
I've
No.
known.
So, but you've seen images of it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, seen images of the David my whole entire life. You see it in pop culture, all that. I saw it in person in Florence. It's unbelievable. I actually shot a video of people coming in and their reaction. Like, there's just something about it in person that is and there's replicas of the David in Florence that don't capture it.
Really?
It's something you have to go see in person, like to understand it. It is beautiful. It is breathtaking. And I have a weird feeling that this bronze statue of a black woman in a t-shirt is nowhere near comparable when you see it in person.
I think you're probably right. I think that it's likely to end up with too much pigeon poo on top of it for it to actually be, held up there with Michelangelo did David.
Yes.
Yeah, Michelangelo's sculpture. So.
I'd like to show you this marble statue that I would elect to be placed in Times Square instead. This is the release from Deception. And is there a better way to look at this? This is marble. Look at the net.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is insane. Absolutely insane. I would also elect to place the Venus de Milo in Times Square instead of a bronze statue of a morbidly obese black woman.
This
It's an omen to the Democrat Party. That is their average voter, or if not their average voter, their core base. I think something like 80% of black women end up voting for Democrats. So it's an omen to them.
I do
so empty.
I do want to say this. I respect the craftsmanship. I don't know how to make a bronze statue, and there's like shirt folds and stuff. That is an obese black woman. That is a good statue.
I mean, the David was carved by hand. It's a masterpiece. This is like every other bronze statue. I feel like.
How do you make
in
a bronze
terms of
statue?
level of effort? I honestly don't know. But this is like the girl we were talking about it earlier that they put in front of the Wall Street Bull.
Yeah.
Where they're like, it's such a powerful symbol. I'm like, no, it's not.
It's not.
It's a 15-foot tall statue of like an angry black woman. Like this is like an ode. They should put this in front of the DMV, honestly.
That's great. But no, you're right.
I honestly, I welcome this. Liberals, please. I welcome you to put a giant 12-foot statue of a black woman, but just have a statue symbolizing excellence. Like, and I mean this in all sincerity, Serena Williams, a world-renowned athlete, super accomplished, cherished for her incredible abilities, and already a celebrity. If they put up a statue of her in Times Square, I wouldn't bat an eye at it. I'd be like, yeah, she's a world-renowned athlete and celebrity. That's not surprising. If they put up a statue of Oprah, I'd be like, well, yeah, I totally get that. That's a billionaire woman who's like one of the most watched people on the planet. I totally get it. This is just woke, right? Yeah. It's like we're going to make a statue of mendacity, of mediocrity. There you go. That's it.
I think the George Floyd statues are nicer, honestly. If I like where he's sitting in the bench, this is not impressive.
Well, I mean, the statue itself is of a just the most mundane human that you could come up with. Like it's just a woman wearing a regular T-shirt and jeans. It's totally mundane.
Man, I figured it out.
What if this isn't a black woman and it's actually a white woman, but they use bronze?
It's still mundane and boring and dumb.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna be clear. I don't care about the race of the statue.
I know.
I'm concerned about the mundanity. I have an idea. We need to make a bronze statue of an obese white man and just drop it off and put it right next to it. And just be like, it's diversity, And then we'll get an obese Arabic, Muslim guy. And we can get a morbidly obese Japanese guy. You don't really see a whole lot of that.
Sumo
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
But I mean, this is just like we talked about it earlier. It's just like the ridiculousness of the girl standing in front of the bull, right? Like the bull, the point of the bull is like, oh, this is the mark and blah blah. What's the point of the girl? I'm a girl and I'm standing in front of the bull. Look at me. Like what's the point of that? It's just ridiculous you know,
I mean, they're going to have a committee like with that girl where it was only supposed to be there for a month and they're going to vote to leave it there forever because it's so powerful. And then this will probably, like that girl, become a cultural flashpoint where people go put MAGA hats on it. They dress up the woman and then people get angry at it. So this is just like another thing to fight over.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, who's the artist that sculpted it? I'm sure that they had some kind of dedication or some kind of,
yeah, something.
I mean, like
ceremony.
I'll say this: like first and foremost, the most important thing is, I don't care what people do; they can do whatever they want on their own time and own dime. If somebody wants to make a statue of like a frail little white girl in front of a bull light, by all means, you can do that. If you want to make a statue of an obese black woman and put it up in Times Square, that's fine. You do your thing with your money. My concern is largely, as a society and a culture, we have been tearing down statues of historical figures.
Yeah.
And then the cultural highlights are the mundane, not the great. I'd rather see a statue of Spider-Man. Everybody likes Spider-Man.
I like Spider-Man.
Let's go. And the Miles Morales one. That way you get some diversity.
Yeah, there you go.
Everybody likes Spider-Man.
Can't hate
and
that.
he can electrocute people, I think.
Can he?
Yeah, I think
He's
so.
like a taser thing, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah, Miles Morales Spider-Man can turn invisible and electrocute you.
Really?
Because I think at some point they were like, what else can a spider do? And they're like, this spider can shock you. And they're like, let's give him electric powers, I guess.
Sick.
I mean, at least it's in Times Square, which is like where the tourists go.
Yeah.
But if you're like a New Yorker like I am, it's like the worst place to be on planet Earth. So, like, I'm not gonna have to deal with this statue.
Yeah, like what would someone that's actually from New York be doing in Times Square?
You have a friend that visits, they insist that you go there. You're like, here you go. Like, I've had pizza with friends.
Let's go see the statue.
While some addict is like sprawled out, like rolling around in the garbage there, and I'm like, yeah, the lights. It is nice. The lights are beautiful and all that, but like. Some of the people were.
But they're opening a Caesars in Times Square. You hear about that?
Yes.
Caesar's Palace?
We're going to be a casino.
Caesar's
people
Casino.
now.
Oh, okay.
Old
Times
people
Square.
go there to go to the Broadway shows. That's what's going on there. All the theaters are dotted throughout Times Square. And
None of this matters, okay, because old people are dying and no one's having babies.
New York is a dying city. 18% of the children under age 5 have fled the city, like their families. Yeah. Like it is a wild thing what's happening in American cities with youth. And it's not just New York. It's a bunch of left-wing cities are losing their under 5 population.
We've been talking about this nonstop for 2 weeks, but there's only 40 million Gen Alpha right now. And so depending on the numbers, the years you use to end it, it's going to be between like 42 and 48 million. Whereas every other generation is about 70 million. Yeah. Super low. People don't understand in New York, you need to maintain these skyscrapers. So what are we going to do when everyone leaves? There's going to be decaying skyscrapers. You're going to be walking down the street and a window is going to fall from a building because it's just not being maintained and just onto the ground.
a lot of these bigger buildings are already struggling too because they have so much commercial space that they can't fill following the pandemic, and like office space, just the demand isn't there that used to be there in New York City.
Yeah.
And so that's
Do
a
you guys,
huge
do
issue.
you guys know about the Tower of David in Venezuela? Skyscraper that they built and then never completed, abandoned it because, communists. And then there's no working elevators, but it's like 100 stories. So people just squatted in it. And you can go up like, I think 12 stories because there's a parking garage, and people hire motorcycles to ride them up 12. And then they have to walk up, 70 flights of stairs to get to their apartment, where you walk out on this platform and there's no windows. It's just exposed, looking over the edge, several hundred feet. And then they laid bricks. That's what's going to happen in places like New York.
California, it's happened. There's that skyscraper that they were building that it was by a Chinese company. He ended up getting indicted for fraud in China, and it's just premium real estate. Nobody could take over this project, covered in graffiti, and there's like no solution to it in the state of California.
Disgusting.
The Tower of David, Torre de David. How big is it? They said it was the main investor died from cancer in '93. The banking crisis in '94. The government took out to control the building, and it's not been completed since. It's 171 meters tall, 45 stories. Okay, not 100. I was wrong. 45. 12 floors of parking. So you ride up, and then you got to walk. And look, see how they put bricks?
Yeah.
They built brick walls. They had to carry all those bricks up. Yo, that's crazy.
That is,
Chavez Viva.
that is wild. And the thing is like, 45 stories, like compared to 100 doesn't sound like a lot, but that's the tallest building in maybe 30 U.S. states.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
That's
It's
crazy.
just abandoned. I mean, it's Venezuela, so it's not that surprising there. I mean, you've seen the Chinese cities where it's like made with cheap concrete, and people would just go with like a little bottle opener, and they'll pull apart the whole building structure.
What?
Yeah, like it's like all crumbling. They're able to pull it out with their hands, like the rebar and all that.
Yeah, they call it tofu drag because
Yeah.
like they literally use tofu products and stuff like that inside of like the rebar to like make the plastic or make the cement and stuff. It's crazy, man. Yeah.
Jeez. Well, let's jump to this next story. We got this from the Post Millennial. Salt Lake City Council votes to make LGBTQ pride flags official city flags in defiance of state law. How is it that these like areas that you'd expect to be largely conservative and religious are woke as a joke?
I have no idea, but it blows my mind.
Frederick, Maryland, which is like 30 minutes from here, they fly a communist flag
Yeah.
on their city hall.
Really?
Yeah, the Pride Progress one.
Oh, okay. Well, all right.
It's a communist flag.
Yeah. I mean,
It's got a black and brown stripe that ain't representing anything else other than this weird cult.
yeah, totally.
Race communism.
I didn't see it. I did stop in that town to get a.
I mean,
Roy Rogers,
I haven't been there
haven't seen
in
it.
a few weeks, but
yeah.
yeah, on their city hall, it's
No,
That's
I wish I would
crazy.
have known to look for it. But yeah, this seems like completely gay to me, honestly. Like if I had to describe this in one
was
word.
the
Pretty
intention.
gay.
They said in order to circumvent this law, the Salt Lake City Council unanimously passed an ordinance Tuesday to make several versions of LGBTQ pride flags official city flags in response to a new Utah law that prohibits such flags from being displayed in government-sanctioned spaces, which took effect on Wednesday. This is a cult.
Yeah.
This is what cults do. Jeez.
Absolutely, Clip. But I mean, that's something that we talked about, for a while on the show. It's like the way that they excommunicate people for stepping out of line, the way that they try to separate people from their family, and particularly the LGBT groups. They tell people to go no contact with their family if they don't endorse whatever silly idea they've come up with for their sexuality or whatever. So to call it a cult is probably the most accurate, most accurate description we have.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess the response from the state is that they're going to now say what counts as a city flag, and like they're going to have to do this whole back and forth. Like it's ridiculous. Like we should be flying the American flag, the state flag, and not any of these alternative flags, regardless of your beliefs or whatever, at our official buildings.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a huge deal. And I remember when the story first dropped, they were like, "Oh, it allows you to fly the Nazi flag, but not the pride flags because it had a historical exemption for like teaching history." Like that was like specific. Like the reaction to this, like it's about having cultural dominance. It's like in the
Yes.
biggest city in Utah, a solid red state, you will see our flag on your city hall. Like if you pass a law against it, we will defy you because this is about like taking control of these spaces.
And it does surprise me that the Mormons just allow this. Considering how there's such a heavy Mormon presence in Salt Lake, but like the fact that
Trying to give me an answer.
no, well, it looked like you were going for your
Yeah.
mic.
This seems like Serge, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's cool.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
This seems like a whimpering virtue signal from honestly a dying ideology. I think across the country that we're seeing more and more people on a grassroots level, and then policymakers, and even up into the level of businesses really push back against this LGBTQIA ideology. Just wait to see what Pride Month looks like this year and how many fewer corporate sponsors are at any of these marches.
Even last year, it was very muted compared to previous years.
Sure, but I think it's dwindling even more so than that. All these companies are being stripped away of their DEI, different initiatives, and so it's exciting to see. And again, I think this is a failing ideology to fight for that we're seeing in some urban areas of the country, but there's still a dying ideology, and they're virtue signaling.
I kind of agree. I mean, me and Andrew are watching a lot of the stuff from Seattle, and like the number of people doing it is like a far cry from what it previously was in like 2020 and the Summer of Love. It's like 50 people. It's not.
Well,
it's just used to be a lot more.
You got to understand, it's been 5 years since the Summer of Love riots, and those 23, 24-year-olds are now in their late 20s, entering their 30s, and they're not focused on this stuff anymore. They're wondering why they can't own homes.
Yep.
And so they're growing up. And there's no young people to replace these far left lunatics. Not just because there's no babies, but because liberals don't have any and conservatives do. So these younger generation is largely conservative.
But it is scary that almost none of those people were held accountable. And like those are the people that are attacking Teslas right now.
Yeah.
Like, so they are still around. Some of these people never grew up and got jobs. But yeah, I will say I'm not expecting Pride to be maybe lesser. It will probably in certain areas that are going to double, triple down on the gays. Like it will be bigger there. But as an overall thing, it's going to be a lesser thing. But this is
The
like a
gays and the
perfect
transes.
Yeah, this is like a perfect lesson in like quitting while you're ahead. The gays had everything.
They did.
Like they were good in the clear. They were on TV. Like every single police chief had a husband in like every single show. Like, and they would say like they would have regular ordinary dialogue, and they're like, oh no, my husband's calling me. Like that's how they would do it. But they just kept pushing. They added this trans stuff to it. The T really took them off, and now we're seeing it all being clawed back. And by the way, this has happened in other countries where you start seeing it really get clawed back. We're at a normal point of like, all right, try to trim the excesses, but if they keep pushing, like it's might go back to what they would call the bad old days.
Well, the trans issue is really largely what did it. The way that the far left behaves about trans people. Your average lesbian is, and I've said this a million times, your average lesbian is not going to who is accepted by society is not going to accept the idea that they have to have sex with a person with a penis or else they're a bigot. Men are not going to accept, straight men are not going to accept the idea that they have to have sex with, except trans women have sex with a man with a penis that's calling themselves a woman, or else they're a bigot. Like that is just not going to fly in any society. I think the fact that it's forced on people by the trans community as well.
Yeah, I think this makes me question if the founding fathers thought ahead, or if this is the natural ebb and flow of any society. The result of things like this is an authoritarian backlash. A lot of people have predicted this, that the ideologies and excesses of liberalism result in social decay, or behavioral sink, as we'd call it. And now you've got a rising faction of people demanding authoritarianism. Mm-hmm. Not totalitarianism, but an authoritarian-style government that shuts them down and says, you can't put weird cult symbols as your city's flag. That would violate the First Amendment. They're allowed to do it. The problem is these people are cultists. They are deranged, violent, and psychotic. I'm curious if the founding fathers had considered a reality in which a large portion of the American population became literally insane, believing 2 + 2 = 5, amputating the genitals of children. I'm curious, like if you went to the founding fathers and said, here's what you will get with the rules you have laid out, and you showed them these things, do you think they'd still say, no, but we think it's the right thing to do?
I think they did consider it. That's why. And by the way, I'm not one of these guys that's like repeal the 19th or whatever, but that's why they limited the franchise. Like you had to own property. Like you had to be shown to be competent in other areas before you were even able to vote. So like they did see that. But over time, like, we have a lowest common denominator culture, and that's...
I think the quote from Franklin was, religious and moral people is who the Constitution is for, and these people are a far ways away from
But not only that, like, there's a lot of things that the founders based our government and our government structures on, was based on a lot of things in Rome. So they were aware of the rise and fall of Rome. They knew about the excesses of Rome. They knew about the things that helped tear the Roman Empire down and then the society down. So I don't think that they were unaware. And I think that, Sean, you made a great point.
John Adams, rather.
Yeah.
I think, Sean, you made a great point that the reason they limited the franchise was because they saw what happened when Rome enfranchised all the people. Like when everybody could vote, and started taxing everybody. That was one of the precursors of the fall of Rome. So
I think one of the most fascinating things about this issue at this point in time is the political aspects of it. And that is that I think the Democrats are starting to realize it's a losing issue. And that's why many Democrats are pushing back less and less against Donald Trump. When he brings out different executive orders that people would say is like equivalent to a trans genocide or what have you. Right now, Trump's come out with his ban against trans people in the military, ban against trans people in women's sports. I'd like to see him go even further because he knows the more he harps on this issue, the Democrats struggle to defend it, and the progressives in the party still will. This is Trump's probably most popular issue that he has. This is probably an 80-20 issue for Donald Trump. I can't think of a more popular issue that he has on.
He's second.
Versus
this is second
the
to
Democrats.
To the border.
I think even for moderates, though, I think this is more appealing than even immigration. But one last point on this. I would really like to see the Trump administration go a little bit further and hold different doctors responsible for what I believe is medical malpractice. If they misdiagnose somebody who, within a certain amount of time, comes to immediately regret the decision, which I know multiple detransitioners personally have went through. Right now, there's no role or responsibility after the fact for a lot of these doctors. And I think if there was some consequences for this medical malpractice, insurance rates will change. The doctor's willingness to so easily go ahead with these procedures would change. And I think change some of the dynamics in an important manner. So
the doctors that do these procedures, they should be liable if the person decides after the fact that they don't want.
Particularly for minors, too. Particularly for minors.
For anyone, because these doctors know.
Yes, but I think there's a difference between 25
No, because these doctors know that you can't make a man into a woman. Like, you can't make a woman into a man. So the fact that they do these procedures, they're doing them knowing that the results the people are going to get are never going to actually be the results that they're hoping for. So if they say, no, hey, look, you didn't actually protect me. You did harm to me. They should be liable.
I think there's a different level of protection and agency people have as they grow older. And that's why I think there needs to be a different set of rules.
You're allowed to do things as an adult, even things I would disagree with.
But doctors have a responsibility to do to not hurt you. If you went to a doctor and said, "Cut my arm off," it's not my arm.
It's a different threshold, I believe.
I have a more important point, because they're not backing off of this, and people really need to listen to what they're doing, because it's like a little judo move. Because what they say is "Oh, this isn't the most important issue," and you hear a lot of this from the online left that's supposedly focusing on economic issues, like Marxist stuff in terms of that economic sense. But when you push them on it, they're like, "Oh, why are you talking about this? This doesn't affect that many people. This is not an important issue." But when you push past all of that, you find out they're in favor of it. They want to transes the kids. These people are not backing off. They're trying to make you the weirdo for talking about it. Yeah. And that tactic not working is the only reason we're seeing victories on this particular issue, because this has been their strategy the whole time. Call you weird. Call you a creep.
Yes. And to your point, there are pharmaceutical companies that also try to incentivize this kind of stuff, because if you get someone to have a procedure, they have a customer for life. There are medications that you will be on for the rest of your life. So if a doctor if a doctor does this, and the person says, "You know what, I've changed my mind and I feel like you should have tried to talk me out of it," they should absolutely be liable. Absolutely. That's not even, there's no part of me that's even Hims and haws about that. They are responsible for taking care of people. What they should be doing is saying, you need to go see a therapist. If you go to a doctor and say, "Chop my stuff off," the doctor should say, "Hold on here. I'm going to refer you to a psychologist because you're absolutely crazy."
But then the therapist will affirm, "Yes, that's a good idea. That's a good solution."
That person should go to jail.
Sean, do you think moderate, or let's say even the right-wing Democrats, support this type of gender ideology stuff? Because if anything, I believe they don't actually, but are dragged to it by the progressives in their party, and forcing them to own it, I think, is where the political advantage comes from.
Are we talking about the voters, or are we talking about the
both voters and politicians? Because I think there's a part of the Democrat Party, the more centrist right-wing part, that still does exist in some small part. There were a couple of congressmen, I believe, who after the election came out and said oh, this trans issue is killing us.
I think politicians are largely not ideologically based, and they kind of go with the flow. And the flow isn't necessarily the general population. It's like the leaders in the culture. Like there's a lot of transgender people in Hollywood. The reason that matters is because they're a huge donor to the Democratic Party. But Gavin Newsom is in favor of this stuff. Like he can go on Charlie Kirk and say, whoa, this is ridiculous. Who uses Latinx? Like I don't use that. But then all of his literature shows him using it. He signs a law that protects teachers if they hide this condition from you. And again, with the suicide rate associated with transgenderism and the fact that if you hid depression with a much lower suicide rate, you would be fired and possibly charged with child abuse. The fact that you can hide this from the parents is insane. Newsom's in favor of that. Don't buy into him being a moderate now.
Simple math. Desistance rates. Desistance is when a child simply stops being trans. It's between 65 and 90%, given the actual academic literature. Suicidality is around 47% for trans people. This means that there is a greater chance the child will not be trans and not be suicidal, and thus you are substantially increasing the risk of suicide by providing transgender treatments to children.
Yep. Jail them. Put them in jail for this because this is all lying to kids.
Okay, but sure. The problem is they vote for it. How do we function as a society when you have psychotic, deranged people marching around saying 2 + 2 = 5? I mean, they might as well look. The easiest way to explain that the liberal worldview is failed is 2 + 2 = 5, as a standard statement. Going around asserting that as if it's a fact. There is no logic. Imagine what happens when you then you expound upon that into government. You're sitting in a room and you're like, we have a wave of criminals that have crossed the southern border and they are raping and murdering people. I say we deport them. The liberals then, applying their fractured, failed logic, goes, I know. One way we can stop the crime is to give them money and housing. And you go, wait, how will that stop the crime? What do you mean? Giving housing and money to criminal narco gang members will stop them from raping people. And then they vote for it, and then they do it, and then you get more rape.
It's called arresting poverty, or deporting poverty in this case, where the real problem in criminality is the fact that people are just poor, and you use the perfect example that cuts to the heart of that I always use, which is rape. Like people are not raping because they're broke. Like that is not a thing that happens.
AOC said that they're shooting each other in New York because they want bread.
So true. They're all trying to get bread. Like
San Francisco,
they're trying to get bread, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Osama
San
bin Laden
Francisco was trying to do a policy like that where they were trying to pay people to not commit murder.
Yeah, it's a root. It's like a root cause fallacy. The idea that the best way to address something is to do it by the root cause. And even if poverty was the underlying root cause and that was properly identified, that does not mean that the most efficient way to address criminality is to do that. I mean, the Great Society programs, all these welfare programs from the 60s, they tried to reduce poverty through government handouts. We had the greatest crime wave in American history immediately after their passage, and they only ended in the mid-90s when we did welfare reform and the crime bill. So we went the exact opposite direction. Greatest crime drop in history. So yeah, it's
you got a pipe burst in your basement, and you call a liberal plumber and a conservative plumber. Conservative plumber comes down and goes, "There's water leaking out of that pipe into your basement. Shut the water off." And we go, "Makes sense." The liberal goes, "What if we boil the water and turn the heat way up?" And you're like, "Well, that will just put hot water in my basement." And they go,
"But some of it will evaporate."
They just go, "Nope. 2 + 2 = 5.
Oh, jeez.
Illogical solutions to problems. We voted for it. It's going to keep happening.
That will heat the home, and it will be more efficient than carbon.
Yes. No, if we heat the water, hot water evaporates, so the water will stop. And you'll be like, "But it'll just keep flowing into my basement." Nope, it'll evaporate. 2 + 2 = 5. And they stand by it. They stand by. All right, we're going to go to your chats, my friends. So smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. You got to go to timcast.com, click join us, become a member of our Discord. Why? You get to call into our Uncensored show and take part in our Culture War Live series. I believe the next one we're planning is going to be about 1 month. And we're hoping to actually plan out, I think, 6 events is the strategy. And so they're going to be about 1 month apart, but we are going to try and condense them and get them more frequent. So as a member, we just filmed the Culture War Live on Saturday. And we encourage the audience to heckle, boo, and cheer the debaters. And so we had a heck of a good time, and I hope you guys join our Discord community and get involved in these conversations. But also you get to call into the Uncensored Show coming up in about 22 or so minutes over at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. Let's grab your chats for now, and we'll talk about what you guys got going on. All right. Shane H. Wilder says, some feel Trump isn't moving fast enough. I'm still early days to forward the line. You must strategize and hold the line until you see the whites of their eyes, else risk going off half-cocked. Indeed. Evan for US says, do y'all think Pam Bondi is implicated in the Epstein docs? Jeremy shared what could have been a rumor that this could be the case. Hopefully just a rumor. No way. No way.
I'm surprised it's not above Jeremy to put out such dumb, unsubstantiated rumors. It's like people are so desperate for clicks right nowadays on Twitter. It's absolutely disgusting. Like the incentive structure on Twitter is just to put out the dumbest crap you could think of and like the dumbest of rumors. And it's really become a cesspool over there, unfortunately.
It's not X. Views on every platform have dropped dramatically. Here's the funny thing. You know, I've been in this business for, man, it's going on 13 years. I mean, I've been posting videos online forever, but in news media. Every 4 years, you have we call it like the news death year. This year is news death. After a political election, some people call it fatigue. I don't think fatigue is the right word. It's just, we're done. The president has been elected. Now we're going to chill out. We'll get back into the game when the midterms are coming up. So the midterms will come up. There's going to be a bubble. Viewership will start to increase politically. Then the year after this, we're going to start seeing an increase in campaigning for presidential primaries and things like this. This year will be the worst in the cycle. So what's happened is channels that talk culture and politics are seeing a substantial decrease. Thus, they're going to ramp up. You know, I'll put it this way. There's a finite amount of viewers who are willing to watch political content right now. And so that means everybody has to crank the dial up to 11 to steal whatever viewers they can from the other channels.
Bless you.
Bless you.
And then I sneezed.
Were you finished there?
Yeah, that's it.
I consume a ton of political content, including X. At this point, X is making you a dumber, more misinformed person, thanks to people like Jeremy on X.
You're talking about Jeremy Hamley.
I thought I'm talking about Jeremy
Quartering.
Yeah.
Oh, the quarter?
Yeah. I am speaking about him. And others on the platform are making you actively stupider and more misinformed. Sadly, it's unfortunate.
Listen, Jeremy is a big Wisconsin grizzly bear. He's not the problem. The problem is all these accounts that just recycle everybody's old
What did he
videos.
say? Wait, what did he say specifically? He was saying that Pam Bondi isn't releasing the Epstein files because they have dirt on
Listen,
her?
I'm not running defense
No,
for
so it's just such
I'm
like
not running
dumb
defense for his take.
bullshit, desperate for clicks. He's trying to meld in together.
He might be drunk and delete his tweets tomorrow. But anyway, but
no, but these are people. This is an influencer that people trust. This guy's supposed to be a journalist, right? And he's peddling stupid bullshit to try to get clicks, and it's making you actively more misinformed and stupid. He thinks you as an audience is stupid.
Why don't you debate him?
I will debate him, but I have disdain for people like him, frankly.
To be fair, I tweeted two things. Who would win in a fight? One ornery rooster or David Hogg?
Yeah, but that's not like. That's
also
fundamentally
tweeted,
different from what I think.
Who would
he's
win in a
doing.
fight? One gorilla or the entire white dudes for Harris?
I think the gorilla. Frankly,
I just want to mention too. I don't know why people think gorillas have superpowers. The idea that 100 men could not take a gorilla is the most laughably absurd thing I've ever heard in my life.
men are such wimps nowadays that I mean,
average 100 average guys could take down an elephant. This is not even like this is complete.
I've seen this in Africa audio, but they had weapons.
With no weapons.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. The thing about an elephant is the humans can run forever. This is how humans hunt. They're endurance hunters. So if humans, 100 of them, were attacking an elephant, and you can cause serious damage to the eyes, to the trunk, to the tail, and it tries to flee, it will die. It will die of exhaustion before humans get tired. This is gorillas too. It's just insane to me that at any point anybody thought 100 men could not fight a gorilla.
I don't know. I saw a documentary, like it was animated. It was called Tarzan, and the gorillas were pretty tough in there. Like
A gorilla will die. I think the estimates are that a gorilla would kill about 20 men and then die.
It depends on the men. Is it 100 David Hogs or is it
Regular
100
average
gay
guys.
shredded men?
Nope. It's just men. It's just regular guys, average guys.
So you're getting David Hogg and the shredded gay man.
Perhaps, but if we're just going by like average bell curve, then they're 5'8", 5'9", and they weigh 180 pounds.
Look, if it were
those
guys like
those guys
you,
in the vanguard are definitely biting it.
Bro,
right?
100 guys would kill a lion.
if it were guys like you, I think we could do it.
Have you ever been like tackled before by like?
I think you could strangle a gorilla now that like with enough people to distract his arm.
No, like 20 guys would hold a gorilla down.
How many
And then
people do
just
you think
beat it
one
to
MMA
death?
fighter could take? How many humans do you think one super MMA
I saw a
fighter could
video where a boxer beat up 5 guys at once.
take? Yeah, so if this one crazy MMA fighter could take out, knock out 20 dudes. Somebody like Anderson Silva in his prime.
But hold on, that's a professional, and even like MMA like fighters have said, like they could still get knocked out if they get a punch when they're not expecting.
Sure,
it.
but
So,
a gorilla is, almost
I mean,
beyond
is a
that.
gorilla even that like violent and
They're-
vicious?
They weigh on average about 400 pounds. A single strike from a gorilla, a punch, could kill a man. But they're acting like guys. You got to watch UFC. Okay, people don't understand this. They don't understand why, like by round 4, the guys are going like this with like Jello punches, and they're struggling to hit. It's like, dude, you're winded, you're tired. Lactic acid has built up, and it is difficult to maintain that high intensity combat for that long. 100 guys, they'd rip that gorilla to shreds and rip its arms and legs off. Have you guys ever seen when like 30 guys lift a single car? Not even 30. Like I watched a video recently where like 10 guys lifted a car up and moved it.
Yeah, I've seen.
Come on.
Well, I think if we should probably run this experiment, and for those of you who say it's animal cruelty, I think if the gorilla wins, we give him that Planet of the Apes serum, and we just pay him money so he lives like a king. And like, if the humans win, then we pay the medical bills for the survivors.
All right, let's go. S.A. Federale says, serious, not serious question. Why are people saying O'Keefe exposed the most powerful family on earth? I thought we always accepted that their role was ceremonial.
Just
I
because
didn't
they're
accept that.
ceremonial doesn't mean they're not influential.
Yeah, and they get was $1 per person from every person in the UK or something like that.
I think they have land that the UK government pays them for use of, and that's what supports their wealth. They're technically like the heads of state of multiple governments, so like
Isn't it ceremonial though? They don't have any actual power. Their power comes from their wealth, and they're going to transition into probably some.
I think they have. I think they have more than nothing, but like less than like the conspiracy theorists would say. So I think it's really more influence. Like like
they've fallen off so hard, the royal family, because I think they still had power in King Charles' lifetime. So for it to become ceremonial over their lifetime is so sad. The diminishing power.
The Queen was still really influential, like up until she passed away. After she died, now Charles is not respected the same way that she was, and I think that's probably going to be the death knell for the.
Well, because like normally, if you're a prince and like the person who precedes you is taking way too long to kick it, like you'd pull a Game of Thrones maneuver and seize the throne. Like this guy just waited around. It's kind of cowardly.
Well, if it mattered, even it doesn't even.
Jake says, "What are the chances that Miss Giuffre was placed in witness protection?" They claimed she died. She didn't actually die. They're just putting her in protection.
Yeah, I mean that's a possibility, I guess.
I mean, that's what the mob says. Like I've been watching The Sopranos with the wife recently. That's what the mob always says when they kill someone and they never find the body. They're like they went into witness protection. So I don't know. I guess the reverse could be true.
Mr. Powell says, can we get a big Patriot shout out and support for Brad Arnold, lead singer of Three Doors Down, who was recently diagnosed with stage 4 cancer?
It's horrible.
Sad to hear it, man. I remember being 13 years old, hanging out at Collect-A-Card and Comics in Chicago, and they were blasting Kryptonite while I played with my Magic the Gathering and Pokemon cards.
Yeah, if you're a praying kind, he has said that he would really appreciate prayers. So.
And speaking of cancer, Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks posted on Twitter that she was in the hospital with her mother, and she has some kind of cancer of the blood, and she did like bone marrow. So people pray for her.
Mom does?
Yeah, Anna's mother.
Oh, wow.
Pray for her mother's speedy recovery.
Best wishes to
We got to get
Sean,
Anna on the
that's
culture
very
war.
nice of you to even mention.
I mean, Anna's been pretty base as of late, you know.
Yeah.
You're kind of a correspondent on all things Young Turks.
I am the expert. That's what they're gonna put on my headstone.
They don't really get a lot of traffic these days, do they?
I actually don't know. I'm not an expert. I know Anna's been off for 2 weeks, so
That might be why.
yeah.
Let's see, you
I know that
take a
they're
look at the
Kasperian correspondent over here.
Anna's been fighting with the viewers of the Young Turks because of her base takes.
She might be more
most of
open
their
to coming
videos are just members only now. Wow.
I figured when Chen came out and she was gonna follow that.
Yeah, they don't get a lot of views at all on any of their videos for the Young Turks channel.
I'm surprised they haven't
10,000,
split
20,000.
I feel like they offer members videos for the whole network on their main channel, and
Right.
now YouTube allows you to see them, like for some reason, which just clutters up your feed on everybody's
Yep.
channel.
Well, because they want you to click it and then spend money. Yeah, they got a lot of members only videos. I mean, that is one strategy. It's a good strategy. Going for membership instead of big sponsors. Members are better. The Timcast members are better. The Rumble Premium members are better. It's hard to rely on sponsors, man, especially if they threaten you and want to cancel you for saying things they don't like. All right, Ricky M says, I'm currently on a cross-country road trip with my girlfriend. She's not listening, but she is fangirling hard over Phil. If it's not too much trouble, Phil, could my GF Jamie get a line from her fave ATR song, Become the Catalyst? Please and thank you.
How about?
Is that from the song?
That's how the song starts, with just a deep growl.
Oh, all right. There you go. All right. Let's grab some more. Hequibus says, per chat, read Whitney Webb's article on Epstein. Why? What does it say? You should tell us. All right. What have we here?
Yeah, I'd be interested in knowing what it says.
I have an idea.
Slemmeron says, if not allowed, I apologize. I make EDH gameplay content and post on Rumble. Please check us out. We are Middle Class Magic. Again, sorry I'm not allowed to self-promote, but I'm a huge fan. We are always here to promote non-woke Magic the Gathering players. Although the game is really bad these days. I don't know how Magic survives, to be completely honest. It is a convoluted mess. They jumped the shark. They did. Do you know what Magic the Gathering is?
I know what it is.
You know, yeah. So, yeah, it's supposed to be like wizards are fighting and you summon goblins and dragons or whatever. They put out a set a few months ago, Magic Racing.
Oh,
Wizards on motorcycles racing. And everybody was just like, well, we're done. We are cooked.
Didn't they devalue like rare cards by re-releasing them? Like I'm not too familiar with
That's
the space.
super common, actually. But sometimes if cards get reprinted, it can actually increase their value depending on if this coincides with a legalization of the card in sanctioned formats. What ended up happening last year was there were several cards. One card is called Jeweled Lotus. It is designed specifically for a Magic format called Commander. And the independent committee on the rules banned it. And that dropped from like a $100 card or $200 card. So these are people who are playing in tournaments. In order to have this card in your deck for a sanctioned event, you've got to save up $100, $200 and buy it. Overnight, it dropped down to like $20 or $30. So this just like, it screwed a bunch of small businesses because it's secondary market. And then Monocrypt is a huge kick in the balls. This is a very old card from the 90s, and they've reprinted it several times. More importantly, Hasbro released a set advertising these cards specifically, promo editions. So you'd buy a pack for $100, like a box.
Right.
You'd get like 50 packs in it, or 30, and you're hoping you're going to get that one card because it's cheaper than buying the card directly, but it's kind of gambling. And then a few months later, they said, "Oh yeah, you can't actually use those." On the packs they're selling was the art from the card that got banned. So I'm like, I think there's a class action there because the rumor is that Hasbro knew the card would be banned from sanctioned play, and they told the rules committee not to release their ban until they sold out of the product.
Is the rules committee like run by them, or is it like a third party?
It used to be third party. Now it's run by them.
Okay.
After this scandal, they basically disbanded, and then Hasbro absorbed it.
So normally, like, you can't just because something gets banned later, you can't, like sue over that. But if they deliberately if they knew they were going to ban it and then this happened, like, I don't know a lot about the Magic the Gathering rules, but I know similar things happen in like Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments or whatever. But like, yeah, if you release a card that people think are going to play and then they end up buying into it for the game, that is like fraud if you know it's going to be banned.
Yes. So again, there's an independent rules committee. Hasbro owns Magic the Gathering. They were advertising booster packs that cost like, I don't know, it costs like $7 or something. And it's got a picture of this card on it called Jeweled Lotus. People started buying up these packs, being like, oh boy, I hope I get this extremely expensive and rare card to use in my deck for sanctioned events. And then a few months later, the Independent Rules Committee says that card is actually banned. And there was some information that led people to believe Hasbro had communicated with the Rules Committee and knew well in advance they were going to ban this card. And so Hasbro told them to hold off on their announcement until they can dump the product and make a ton of money, because now the card's worthless.
Right.
It's a weird thing, too, because people just can play whatever cards they want. And the game is completely broken if that's the case. The game does not work at all. You may as well just draw pictures of lizards fighting dragons and warriors and make up whatever you want. Nicholson says, I give Trump a pass on Epstein or any other story that comes out just because if it had any truth, the left would not hesitate to use it no matter the cost. They do use it. They post pictures of Trump and Epstein all the time. DeWinde says, can we get a pay this much to shut off Elad's mic?
Tim, that's not a bad idea.
I'm
a capitalist after all.
$1,000.
That's low, Tim. Don't
And I'll give you-
lowball me. Come on, are you kidding? We could do a lot better than that.
Yeah, how much do you think people are willing to pay to have your mic?
Dude, a lot, frankly. It could be like $100 a minute. I think people would be clicking away.
You just set a goal. They have to donate through it. There's a meter running during the show. And then
Yeah. When it runs out, Elad's mic turns back on.
Like the crisis party in at PCC when it.
Hey, that's actually a really good idea.
You got to put a clock on it so then people
Yeah.
can try to break the record of how fast they can get them off the show.
No. You have a meter that is at 0, and every dollar super chat is like 10 seconds. And so $6 is going to be a minute. And then the meter fills up, but slowly going down the whole time.
Yeah.
So you've got a super chat to keep it afloat. Otherwise, if it goes all the way down, his mic turns back up.
And then it has to cut to me. Serge cuts to me immediately once it passes the threshold.
Maybe it should be $1 per second.
You should. I think maybe
$60
that's a
a
good
minute.
way to work. But if you put like an execution thing, like he has to be booted off, like when they hit that threshold, then they'll compete of like how fast they can get him off per episode. It's like, oh, it took 15
If the
minutes.
the
This
meters
episode, we could do better than that. Let's try to get 14.
will have the meter's max capacity will be 3,000, and if the meter ever hits max capacity at one time, the alarm goes off and he's just out of the show for the rest of the day.
Evacuated.
And then
You got to build a custom ejector seat for this, so like he can literally.
sirens will go off and it'll be like, Elad is
There should be a penalty box.
You have to have an Elad cam where he's sitting there and like his microphone is clearly not connected, and that's the Elad cam that he has.
and
to show.
periodically shows him talking and he's just Ian as well.
It should just be third chair penalty box. So
I mean, that actually is a really great idea for a show.
That's hilarious.
Gee whiz. Hey.
Not specifically for like banning Elad, but if we did a show where we had something like that, that actually would be really funny. Because what we do with Chicken City is every $100, a chicken party triggers and music plays and all the chickens run out and it sprays mealworms everywhere. And then Pop Culture Crisis, every $100, it fires a bunch of money guns, $20 bills in the air, and then plays crazy noises, which is nuts. And the idea we had for an averted world, which never got built, was going to be that every 100,000 super chats, it was going to make it thunderstorm. Yeah. And so
Every $100, there should just be a picture of the moon that shows up and goes right over Sean's face. There is no moon.
Nothing more controversial than a truth teller, huh?
all right, Dimension 14B said, did you know that New York politicians just snuck $10 million into the New York state budget to pay for Letitia James' personal legal defense?
Sick.
Indeed, I did.
Republicans did that?
No, Democrats.
Okay.
Yep. And it's literally specifically for her. It doesn't say her name, but the way it's outlined and defined, it's just if the federal government goes after a New York politician for doing their job after this particular date. Yep.
Deep hatred.
What have we here? Rub says, legend has it, if you stare at the NYC, you can hear the faint sound of the chirp from a smoke detector in need of a battery. Oh, the statue in NYC? Yeah. Someone did that. They showed the video and they were playing. Someone did that to Jasmine Crockett. They took one of her videos where she was talking in Congress and they started playing the smoke alarm chirp.
So there's allegedly, while she sits and speaks in the House, somebody is playing a smoke alarm chirp.
Someone's actually doing that?
Allegedly. I believe I saw a news article about this. And then they raised it as an issue in like the rules because it became really inflammatory.
So someone was actually doing that. I thought
somebody in the House, while she talks. Apparently this was an ongoing thing. They'd play the chirp.
Like
all of this is allegedly.
Wait, a member of Congress was doing it?
Or it could have been their staff.
Or somebody in the audience.
Or somebody somebody who was there.
What's crazy?
All of that's alleged. I want to find.
What's crazy is Crockett didn't notice it. Like, it had to be pointed out to her.
So you've read that story too?
No.
Okay. So it's just
no. I did a story on that. Remember that girl, the track racer, that she ended up hitting another track racer in I believe it was Virginia. Like, and that was a big issue for a while, like that she was saying that she didn't strike her on purpose or whatever. So I did a story on that and I used footage from the local news and people started stamping a time code claiming that there was a smoke detector chirp. I didn't hear it on the initial thing, but then I heard it and I go to the local news report. It's in the local news report. I find the interview and I swear to God, again, not altered a second by me. This woman or this girl had 4 smoke detectors going off at like different intervals in her house. And it's in the interview. Like the local news reporter doesn't say, hey, have you ever heard of a 9-volt battery? Like, so I don't know what it is.
I think people are afraid of heights or something.
Yeah. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, and then apparently people have told me from representatives from the black community have told me that some people believe that it chirps every 10 seconds and that indicates that it's working.
I just wanted to fact check myself. Yeah, I fell for a Twitter meme. A really good, funny spot on Twitter meme with 26 million impressions. So, no, apparently.
Wow. I was. That
would have been funny.
We got one more super chat. And it's Kookaburra says, don't usually agree with Elad, but he's right about Jeremy. The clickbait has gotten out of hand. Makes him look desperate.
Jeremy's in the chat,
and so
too.
I went to Jeremy's channel, and I got to be honest, I don't see anything particularly different about anything he's ever done.
No, but it was the specific tweet.
But I did see one of his videos that said Marvel is dead, Thunderbolts bombs, and I was surprised because I went and saw Thunderbolts, and it was actually pretty good.
Is it?
Yeah, Brave New World was not good, and Thunderbolts was actually good. I would call it like a B action movie, like entertaining, fun to watch.
It was fine.
It did bomb. It's the second worst MCU opening. It's crazy, dude. I think, look, man.
Sinners is raking it in. That's why. Like, that's the movie. Like,
really?
I saw both over the weekend. Sinners had been out for a week.
What's Sinners about?
It's a Ryan Coogler film with Michael B. Jordan. It's like a horror movie. Takes place in Jim Crow South. It's like the black movie of the year, right? Prestige director, prestige actors, and all that. I saw Sinners a week after it was released, same weekend as Thunderbolts. Opening night, I saw Thunderbolts. Sinners theater way more packed. And
What's it about?
It's like a horror movie that takes place in the Jim Crow like South, and there's vampires involved in it.
Isn't it just like all the white people are vampires and they're
no? So it's not that. Like I will say. I thought they were going to make it more.
Let's save it for the uncensored call-in show because we got to go. So my friends, smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. We're going to go to that members only uncensored, or I should say Rumble Premium uncensored show. Go to rumble.com/Timcast IRL. Use promo code TIM10. Sign up for Rumble Premium. You get access to all of we got feature-length documentaries. The Green Room show, Monday through Friday, exclusive Rumble Premium show. The Timcast IRL uncensored call-in show. But you also get Mug Club and every other premium content creator on Rumble. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Actual Justice Warrior. What do you want to shout out?
You can find me on my YouTube channel. That's at Actual Justice Warrior. I will obviously shout out the beautiful Persian man, Nuance Bro. You are well missed, sir. Current Revolt, Tony Ortiz's outlet, Texas Paper of Record, and that's really. Oh yeah, thank you, Lisa, for booking me and harassing me to come on the show.
Oh, everybody you named is so great. But again, double shout out to Current Revolt and Lisa Reynolds. She's a superstar. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. My name is Elad Eliyahu. I'm the White House correspondent here at Timcast. Find me on social media under my name to keep up with our reporting at the White House. Phil.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. Our new record is entitled Anti-Fragile. You can check it out on Apple Music, Amazon Music, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon, and Deezer. Yeah. Don't forget the Left Thanks for Crime.
We will see you all over at rumble.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out.